Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome in to a brand new show. Let's get this screen right so I can see you good people. Let's get it right. Excuse me. Hope y'all like the new intro. Got some new music. Got a new screen set up for the music and the intro. So hopefully y'all like that. Switching some things up with the background. What's up, Natalie? Can you hear me? Is the mic sound coming through? Let me know, comment, and let me know if you hear me on the mic. All right, perfect. All right, good. You say yes, you can hear me. All right, so that's good. Appreciate you. Shout out to you for that. All right, so I got a great show lined up for us tonight. The Cleveland media is imploding over Shedeur Sanders. We have people in the Cleveland media who are telling you how to be a fan, what you should be excited about, what you shouldn't be excited about. They're misquoting who is reporting things. They are trying to defend themselves so they can maintain the Shedeur Sanders stimulus package of views on YouTube. They are going crazy. So if you haven't been around me for a while, I do a weekly podcast. I do a weekly sports podcast covering the top topics in sports. This is the earliest I've ever done a podcast where it's going to be solely Cleveland Browns based, and that's because of what's been happening this week. We had OTAs. One day of OTAs were open to the media, and from that one day of OTAs, we have people saying Shedeur looked okay. Shedeur didn't play in any 11-on-11 scenarios. Shedeur was 7 for 9. We got stats coming from ESPN Cleveland. We have national media saying Shedeur should be his QB1, Colin Cowherd. We have Breakfast Ball, somebody sending me a clip from them saying they are unbiased, which is crazy. So we're going to watch that. I believe everyone has some form of internal bias. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I'll give you an example. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. My internal bias is for the Browns to do well. You see how easy that is? It's no different than people on TV who are New York Knicks fans who want to see the New York Knicks somehow get to a Game 7. It's no different. And just because a person agrees with your take, that doesn't mean they don't have any bias. I worked in human resources. When I worked in human resources, we had to take classes on unconscious bias because unconscious bias is the most dangerous bias because it's there and you don't even realize it. So I had somebody send me a clip. So comment creeping, that new segment that we have, that's going to start this week. What else we got on the radar for the week? That's going to be it. All things Cleveland Browns. We got Myles Garrett not at OTAs. This should not be a big issue. People are making an issue. This is the same song and dance that we go through every year. I'm even going to pull some receipts of showing you how basically every year Cleveland media used it as a talking point, saying Myles Garrett should be there in OTAs, and they use this to somehow question his leadership. So we're going to go over that. Also, Off the Record D, follow me on all platforms. You can catch me live Saturday nights, 7 p.m. You catch me on Twitch, X, and TikTok. Follow me on YouTube for shorts and also the full replay. Full replays are released on YouTube at 11 a.m. on Sundays. Last week's episode did not get released because I went through something that if you ever streamed before, you know about this. I recorded an entire episode, 2 hours and 10 minutes. I wasn't feeling the greatest. I still pushed through, put on a great show, and guess what happened? I plugged something into my computer, so my microphone wasn't the main thing that was accepting my audio into my Streamlabs. So every clip I played, you can hear it. Every sound effect I played, you can hear it. Me talking on the microphone, you could not hear it. L. It was an L. So there's no replay of last week's episode. What I had to do, I could either say, you know what? I'm just going to scrap all the research and stuff I did for the week, or for me to stay on schedule and stay on pace of releasing content, especially on TikTok daily, I spent another hour and a half doing voiceover. So if you look at my TikToks from this week, all of them are mainly voiceover. You'll see me moving around before I'm talking. You'll see my eyes blinking, everything. You'll see me, looking around and everything. As soon as it's time to talk, I had to pause it, do the voiceover, and get back to it. So hopefully this week, everything comes out great with audio. Everything comes out great with audio. You will get that full replay Sundays, 11 a.m. on my YouTube channel, Off the Record D. So now that we got those things out the way, we're going to get into the first topic. Excuse me. The first topic is on the screen. It's Myles Garrett. Now, this is going to be very quick. It's not going to take long. I'm going to pull up some clips of people speaking on Myles Garrett. Let's see. Let me get this going. I'm going to pull up some clips. I'm going to start off with a clip from 2 years ago speaking on Myles Garrett. I'm not going to play these whole things because the whole basis and the whole point of this is to just show you that this is something, it happens every single year, and it makes no difference in how Myles Garrett actually performs throughout the year. So this is Browns Report by Chat Sports. Fair use for all the YouTube videos I'm using tonight. I'm using quite a few YouTube videos just because we're really going to do a deep dive into how the Cleveland media is imploding. I'm not even going to play any clips from people talking about Myles Garrett should be at minicamp should be at voluntary OTAs this week because I have it from 2 years ago. All right, so this is May 25th, 2023. Fair use. This is Matthew Petey.
Isn't just a couple people commenting on videos and replying to tweets saying Myles Garrett should be at OTAs. He's not a true leader, right? We've got actual publications out there, ones that I read and that I like. Dog Pound Daily going, Myles Garrett continues to show lack of leadership, and then has a whole article.
All right, that's 2 years ago. The whole narrative of Myles Garrett is not a leader. He needs to be at voluntary OTAs. Now remember, Myles Garrett was in Cleveland. He's been in the building. He's been doing work. Myles Garrett always shows up. He always performs. This is 2 years ago. People had an issue with it, calling him out as a leader. Let's get to the next one. Now that's from 2023. That's my next clip. Oops. I got so many clips for y'all. Let's get rid of that first one. This is The Dogs, a Cleveland Browns podcast. Fair use for me using your video. This is from a year ago. I'm just going to play the beginning.
About Myles Garrett not attending the voluntary workouts. And it seemed like Browns Nation was very split on this, on whether this is a problem or not. So I was like, we should talk about this because I know how I feel, and I'm pretty sure it's differently than how Josh feels. And I don't know how John feels because he never talks, but we're going to try to get him to say some things now. So, Josh, why don't you tell us your thoughts because it was out there on.
All right, we don't need to hear their thoughts. Shout out to those guys. I'm just showing you that every single year, Myles Garrett not being at voluntary OTAs has been an issue for people. And I'll just tell you flat out, I don't care, couldn't care less. The word voluntary is there for a reason. That's the exact same sentiment that Kevin Stefanski shared this week. He said it is voluntary. So if Myles Garrett doesn't report to mandatory training, we can talk about it. But as long as it's voluntary, I don't want to hear it. And the main reason is because it's voluntary. So actually, I kind of went to this clip, but we're going to see a lot of people doing this. I pulled this up. I thought this was actually pretty funny. So this is some students, and you see them, they're moving the goalposts. They're taking the goalposts after a big win, and they're moving that thing. And that's what a lot of people are going to be doing this week. A lot of people are moving the goalposts on what's important, on what matters, and what doesn't matter. So we're just going to be breaking that whole thing down. So one last thing on Myles Garrett not being there. We're actually going to look at Myles Garrett's stats from the last 2 years and see if it made a difference that he wasn't there. Because this is what it's all about. So remember, 2023 season, that's the first clip I showed you. It was prior to, it was actually May 2023. Myles Garrett not at voluntary OTAs. Guess what happened that year? Myles Garrett actually was named Defensive Player of the Year after that season. Defensive Player of the Year. He's not a leader. He should be there. He was named Defensive Player of the Year after that season. So I don't care. 2024, he followed that up. In 2023, he only played 16 games. He played all 17 games last year. He did better in some areas. He had more total tackles. He had 5 more tackles. He had the same amount of sacks. He had 2 less assisted tackles. He had 1 less forced fumble. And he had 2 less pass deflections. So that's the difference we got in the last 2 years of him not being at voluntary OTAs. So for me, that's not something I want to hear about. It doesn't matter. He produces. And when you produce, there's no point in nitpicking these little small things, trying to find issues. And another part of that is, I think that people are falling into the trap where they have to continuously release new podcasts. They have to release new videos, and they fall into the trap of trying to make things that don't matter. They try to make them a story. That's part of the reason why during the off season, I only do 1 show a week. That's intentional. That's so I don't fall into that trap of reporting things that are not really worth it. Also, I don't fall into that trap of trying to put out a certain amount of content and not having enough subjects to talk on, because then I start to create topics that don't matter. And y'all gonna see what I'm talking about right here. Now, I'm going to leave this. We're going to leave it on Myles Garrett. It doesn't matter that it's there. We're going to get to somebody in actually one of these podcasts who we don't need that one anymore. All right, so this is Brown's latest, fair use to Brown's latest. So this is someone who is in that situation where they put out a certain amount of content they want to release something every single day. The problem is during the off season, there are going to be times where you don't have anything new to report on. You're going to fall into the trap of trying to get that Shedeur stimulus package. So you got to put Shedeur name in the title. You got to put his name in whatever you're talking about. And you got to try to bring some type of story regarding Shedeur to make sure you can put that video out every day. So fair use, we're going to start right here where he is going to put out his video from 2 days ago.
Shedeur Sanders ball padding be a flaw. I got to tell you, folks, I noticed this, and I almost brought it up yesterday, but not. A lot of other people noticed it too. When he's out there, a lot of times, and maybe because it's a drill sometimes, and he knows that the pass rush is very limited or non-existent, and so it's just a habit of his to pat the ball. But I noticed that. I'm like, man, he's patting the ball a lot, and it slows down release time in the NFL. You can't do that. I mean, it is that quick release is going to be important. And so this is going to have to be something that is coached out of him. But it started coming out in the videos that are coming out on social media, and people were noticing and commenting on it. And then they were trying to compare his passes to Dillon Gabriel's passes. And then I disagree. Some of them were saying, well, if you look, Sanders' passes, he threw a pass to a tight end, and it was his tight end was closer to the sideline than when Dillon Gabriel threw the pass to his tight end. He was off the sideline a little more. I disagree with that. I mean, I think that was splitting hairs a little bit, but I do think the padding thing is a thing. And this goes back, folks. It's not just me. This goes back to before the draft, during Shedeur's pro day, when Andre Cisco, the Jets safety, watching the video, he put out, he's like, hey, he can't be patting that ball. He says, we'll be breaking on that way early. So this is from an NFL safety, folks, back in April, who noticed it and saw him patting that ball. And, these NFL corners and safety, they're the best on the planet, folks, and so they will make you pay if you decide to release it late. And so I just bring this up because remember, we talked about.
That's gonna be an L. That's gonna be an L. First off, you're talking about a story from the beginning of April. Man, it is. We 1 day away from June. It's May 31st. So you get an L for reporting that 2 months later, which this was a big story 2 months ago and everybody spoke on it. I watched more of this video than I'm going to make y'all watch. But I'll tell you, he's going to say, actually, you know what? We're going to let him say it.
Shedeur, the
gonna speed
negatives
him
that
up,
he had,
though.
they're all coachable. And again, I think this is another one of those
gotta
coachable
speed him
items. And something to keep your eye on as OTAs move forward, and then we get into training camp. We'll have to see if the padding of the ball goes away once we get to full go, especially training camp. Training camp is where it's really going to matter, and then you get into those combined practices. You know, when they get to the Eagles, and like that's when it's really going to show its head, I guess, when we get there, because that's when it really matters. That's when the competition will heat up. Now, I'll tell you what, one thing where there are no flaws are the viewer comments. And so we'll begin today with Jerry.
All right, so he says it at some point in his video. I'm not gonna listen to that anymore. It's like a 14-minute video, so that's way longer than what I want to subject myself to and subject y'all to. He's gonna say he can only find 7 to 10 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that actually patted the ball. I heard that. I instantly knew that was wrong. I knew there was a video going around when this was actually a thing in a story. They were showing all these different quarterbacks who patted the ball. At some point, he's going to name the quarterbacks that pat the ball. So I was like, you know what? I tried to find a video. It was actually in an earlier podcast that I did where I actually played the video showing all the different quarterbacks who pat the ball. And I can't find it. I couldn't find the video. I didn't want to spend hours looking through all the different podcasts I did previously. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, how many quarterbacks? Actually, let me bring it up on this other. I got so many things going on, but I don't want to misrepresent what my ChatGPT said to me. And if you're not using ChatGPT, at least using it to just make things a little bit easier for yourself. You know, when you're doing research and stuff like that, they can point you in the direction of articles and everything. All right, so this is my ChatGPT because I'm like, man, this is crazy. I know it's more than 7 to 10. So ChatGPT says it's hard. This is something very hard to actually track because it's not a stat, which everybody knows that. It's extremely common among quarterbacks in college and in the NFL. And it says roughly 50 to 70% of starting QBs at any given time have shown some form of ball patting. And then it goes on to name some. Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Donovan McNabb, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. These are the ones I'm naming off the top of my head. Kyler Murray. So just right there, we are more than the 7 to 10 that he said he found out did this. And there's actually a lot of guys who do this. It's more so like a timing thing. And it's not something that slows people down enough where you're going to be able to track it. No diss to that safety, but that safety for the Jets, I looked up his career stats. I think he might have 11 total picks in his career over, I think, the course of like 6 or 7 years. He's barely getting a couple a year. He had one good year where he had a bunch, Cisco. But that's not the person I would use to say, hey, what is he looking at to get more interceptions? It's not like he's somebody, Asante Samuel's like, who has 50 career interceptions. That's somebody I would listen to and say, hey, does ball padding make a difference in what you're seeing when you're looking at guys? I wouldn't go to somebody who is fresh and new, establishing themselves in the NFL. So that's one thing. That's why I opened up by telling y'all that they're on this Shedeur stimulus package. They got to use his name. They got to use his face to release content. And that was just one of those. I mean, that dude, he's a nice guy, but that was an L take all the way around. And he's 2 months behind because he's trying to make sure he can pump out that content. And I don't want to put myself in a position where I fall for that trap, where I'm just forcing out content. So, that's just an L. Let's move on to the next thing. Let me get this updated here. I want to update this topic because it's not really on Myles Garrett, and this makes it easier when we're going through the editing process. So this is about Breakfast Ball. So Breakfast Ball is a show that is on Fox Sports 1. It comes on early. Mark Schlereth, I don't believe he's on there every day. Mark Schlereth, Carlton, I believe his name might be Carlton Davis. I'm not sure. He's a bald head guy. And then there's another guy on there too. Now, this is going to start actually comment creeping. So there's a person who had a lot of comments for me, and he was really chatty on my TikTok. And I respond to people. I like discourse. I don't have an issue with people saying they disagree with me and us going back and forth. It's no beef. So I had this guy who was going back and forth with me, and he was speaking to me about me posting. Actually, I'm not going to click on it because it has music in it. But you can see right here in the middle of the screen, you see the QB tracker that just kind of blew up the internet this week. I posted the QB tracker. I didn't post a caption, really. I put my normal caption, but I didn't say anything. Like, Shedeur needs to be a starter. Shedeur is better than everybody else. I ain't saying nothing like that. I knew that people would do that on their own. I just put it out as a think piece to get people talking, and people got to talking. So this guy, we're going to get to his comments later, but fast forward back where we was at with Breakfast Ball. He sent me something, and he said, hey, look at this. This is somebody who is unbiased. This is somebody who's unbiased and speaking on Shedeur Sanders. So
this is so stupid.
Thank you.
We get excited about OTAs. Like, what people don't understand is oftentimes in these OTAs, we will script success. Like, as an offense, we'll go, okay, we're going against our second team defense. Let's make sure that we
shout out to you, Hugh. I'll check on that in 3 years.
Script like a great route combination against a really tough, a defensive look that they're overmatched in. So,
all right, so I listened to this clip that he sent me, but I listened to the full thing, and basically towards the end of it, he's going to say that in OTAs, it's designed for either the offense or the defense to win, just depending on who's going up against who. So basically, those stats don't matter. That's cool. So me doing what I do, I look into this more, and I say, okay, where's the full clip? What are they fully talking about? So when I respond, I know exactly what I'm responding to. So we are going to get over here, and I had to subject myself to listening to these guys talk for a decent amount of time, more time than I wanted to. Let's get to it. It should be here. All right, so this is going to be Breakfast Ball. Fox Sports 1 is really tricky when you're playing anything from them. So, yeah, I played that little short clip, but now I got to put something up on the screen while I'm playing their stuff because Fox doesn't play. They will copyright strike your stuff, and they'll send you that notice to say, hey, if you ever make money on this, we're taking it. So we're going to put that up anytime I'm playing anything from Fox. So this is the portion where they're going to be speaking on Shedeur, and hopefully it's loud enough. For some reason, it's not that loud in my ears, so before we get to it, I'm just going to turn it up a little bit more. Hopefully it's not too loud for y'all. And we're going to listen to the clip of what they say. This is going to be Mark Schlereth, and then after that, it's going to be, what's this guy's name? Let's see if they have it here. I think it's Carlton. Yeah, they don't even put it here. It's Carlton something. But that's the ball guy. But let's play it. Let's get to it.
impressive start to training camp or to OTA camp as he threw a few TDs yesterday, had no turnovers in team drills. Do you make anything of Shedeur's impressive OTAs?
No, and you go first on this, Mark, because you're the guy that says 7-on-7, no defensive line, no offensive line.
This is so stupid.
Thank you.
This is so that we get excited about OTAs. Like, what people don't understand is oftentimes in these OTAs, we will script success. Like, as an offense, we'll go, okay, we're going against our second team defense. Let's make sure that we script like a great route combination against a really tough, a defensive look that they're overmatched in. So sometimes you put these things together where it's not necessarily best on best. You want to see a certain thing, and you want it against a certain coverage. So you're going, hey, man, offensively, we're winning this drill today, right? Tomorrow you get to win the drill. So those things happen all the time. So it's 7-on-7 in these situations, scripted drills. To put any weight into this is just moronic.
But this is also why a lot of teams didn't want to draft him, because where's the Dillon Gabriel highlights? Where's the Kenny Pickett highlights? Where's the Joe Flacco highlights? Why is this a story? There's 4 other quarterbacks doing the same thing in a T-shirt and shorts, and I guarantee you they all look good. Right?
Yeah.
No joke. I can do a pretty good spiral.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop it right there. So we're going to break this down in reverse. So I had to listen to the full clip to hear what they were actually speaking on. So first things first, we're going to go for Carlton. He's to the left of the screen. He's the ball guy. He is not he's definitely biased against Shedeur. Just watching all of his initial run up and everything like that, which is fine. I'm not saying bias is a bad thing, but remember, this started because someone sent me this and said these guys have no bias, and that's not true. Secondly, he says, where are the Dillon Gabriel highlights? Where are the Joe Flacco highlights? Where are the Kenny Pickett highlights? This is where the national media is super lazy. Super lazy. If they did one search of the Cleveland Browns X account, if they did one search of the Cleveland Browns IG account, you would see all the highlights that they put up. They put up highlights for all those guys that you name. So we're going to consider that an L for Carlton. That's an L. He didn't do his research. Super lazy. Subject that they don't want to talk about. Everybody claims they don't want to talk about it. For some reason, they keep talking about it. Now we're going to go to Mark Schlereth. So Mark Schlereth said it's designed for them to win, and you can't really read too much into it. The problem is with these national guys, they just straight up lazy. I'm not going to be nice. I'm just going to call them lazy. And the reason why I'm going to call them lazy is because in the same OTAs that was open to the media, Kenny Pickett has situations where he couldn't get a pass off. And Kenny Pickett is going up with the ones. So he's supposed to be one of the ones who is in the position to win or beat the defense. And he couldn't get a pass off. We're going to call that bad. Also, Joe Flacco had highlights and he didn't look bad. So everybody's designed to win, but everybody doesn't produce the same. And you want us to believe, hey, this don't matter. It don't matter. You know what? You know why I don't believe Mark Schlereth? Because he doesn't believe himself. In the exact same show, listen to what he says about 7-on-7 drills and how it's going to influence Jackson Dart being a day one starter for the New York Giants. And you might be like, man, you lying. I'm not lying. I don't go at these people without using their own words that they say. So remember, I'm doing all this research because the guy told me they weren't biased, but doing this research, this is what I found.
Deal plan. Yeah. I'm just going to show you something.
Go ahead.
And this is why Jackson Dart will become the starter with the New York Giants. Okay, let it continue to roll. Get through. Here we go. All right, the video's still going. This is not what I want to see, but it's coming up. I guarantee you. Here it comes. Okay, here it comes. I know there's only 20 seconds left, but this is the point. Okay, 7-on-7, no offensive line, no defensive line, right? Throw the ball. Yo, you're going to scramble on a 7-on-7 drill? No, that's not how it works. We don't scramble on 7-on-7. There's no pass rush. That's why Jackson Dart is going to be the starter, because you scramble in 7-on-7 drills. You take too many sacks. I move on to Charlie Woods. Yesterday.
What? Did y'all just hear what he said? 7-on-7s, you scramble. You don't get a pass off. That's a sack. You take too many sacks. That's why Jackson Dart is going to be the starter. So Jackson Dart got to throw off on 7-on-7. Russ kept scrambling. So that's why he's not going to be the starter. But at the same time, Kenny Pickett couldn't get a throw off on 7-on-7s. And you want to see highlights from him? These people, they don't even believe the things that they say. I didn't even have to dig. I just went to the exact same show that this person sent me to and said these guys were unbiased. How in the world could 7-on-7s determine the starting job in New York, but in Cleveland, you throw them out, they don't matter? These guys have no philosophy. They have no basis for how they speak on things. And they talk so much that they talk out of both sides of their mouth. In the same episode, I didn't even have to do a lot of research. I didn't have to do a lot of digging. I didn't have to go back and say, man, a year ago he said this. All I had to do was go to the exact same episode. When you listen to the entire episode, you hear how they don't have a basis. They don't have a ground for how they view things. They're not viewing things through a lens of not being biased. So we're going to call Breakfast Ball 3 L's. I got to hand them out to you. It was only 2 guys talking. One guy was quiet. He was smart, but you up there with him. Them your peoples. You got to ride with your squad. Those are some L's. So this is how the media, if you are not the person, if you just listen to the clips and you just go through the clips, everybody's sending that clip around. Everybody's seeing that clip on TikTok. Everybody's seeing that clip on X. Everybody is seeing that clip on Instagram. If you listen to the whole show, they don't even believe their own words. And these are the people where we're supposed to say, you know what? Because they played in the NFL at some point, what they say matters more. How can it matter more when, 1, you're not doing the research, and 2, you are contradicting yourself in the exact same episode, speaking on the exact same subject? How am I supposed to listen to these people? How am I supposed to look at these people and say, you know what? He played the game. He might know a little bit more about this than me, when he can't even not contradict himself in the same show. And this is the guy that people sent me to listen to and said he was unbiased. Come on, man. We got to do better. We got to do better. And remember, that's why I said I do 1 show a week during this time of year, because I don't want to be the person that's putting my foot in my mouth and every day I'm saying something that's contradicting something I said yesterday, and then I'm walking stuff back. Because on the flip side of that, you're going to start seeing people in the Cleveland media who want the Shedeur stimulus package and they want the views. You're going to start hearing them say, I've been telling y'all that, Shedeur could do good, and I've been seeing good things about Shedeur, but at the same time, they're going to be ripping them apart and putting them on every thumbnail and putting his name in every single title that they have. You can't do it. You got to pick a side. Pick how you feel about him and rep that. And then stop complaining about the interest in him when y'all want the views from the interest in him. And y'all want people to tune in. Y'all want people to watch your videos. I started telling y'all this last week that what's going to happen. Actually, I said this probably a month ago now at this point. I said that these guys coming out who have a solid following and a fan base, they are not going for the slander against the guys that they want to root for. They are not going for the lies. They are not going for the lazy reporting. And as you see, the CU family, that's what we're going to say. Everybody in there, the CU family, they went at Mary Kay Cabot. I showed y'all last week 2 times. They went at the Locked On Browns host with what he was saying. Browns latest, I showed y'all, he pulling up stuff from 2 months ago. They went at him in the comments saying, hey, stop using his name. Stop using his picture if you're not going to talk about him. I told y'all, Shedeur got an army. And his army is coming for people who are lazy, and they are coming for people who are trying to use his name and his image for clicks. That's all we need from Breakfast Ball. It just shows that person who sent me that, they kind of couldn't articulate what they wanted to say or how they view things. So they just kind of kept sending me stuff, and it didn't make sense. Now we're going to go back to some of the Cleveland media. Let me get this topic updated for y'all. And shout out to everybody who's been jumping in. Shout out to everybody who's been in the chat. And TW48, no, they don't. Them P-Dubs lying. That's funny. Let me get this topic updated before I get distracted. So we are going to the Cleveland media. And remember, I'm not dissing people. I'm just using their words. And we are doing some fact checking. We're seeing if they are putting in the work. We're seeing if they are actually looking into the subjects they're speaking on. And we're looking at how they're speaking on things and how they are using certain players' names to get themselves views. All right, so this is Spencer German, Locked On Browns. We used some clips from him last week. Fair use, Locked On Browns. This is from 2 days ago. He was one of the people that actually went to OTAs, and he's going to say some things that are actually in conflict with what some other reporters are saying after they were at OTAs as well. So let's get to it. Fair use. Ooh, I got to show y'all. Let's see. Let's take this down. There we go. Y'all on the same page as me now. I'm talking and I'm setting this thing up and he ain't even on the screen. All right, so this is it right here. Let's play it.
getting to run plays against, somebody lining up in front of you. And the biggest thing that stood out, especially as far as the quarterbacks are concerned, which is the competition that's taking center stage, is the fact that Shedeur Sanders took a whopping 0 snaps during 11-on-11 drills. That is a mere fact. This is not slander. This is not me making this up. He did not take a single snap with 11-on-11s on the day that media was there present.
We're going to pause them right there. And normally I try to let these things play out because y'all know I can run my mouth. We're going to pause them right there. The reason why we're going to pause them right there is because we got a conflict report from Zach Jackson. And just the last couple years, Zach Jackson has seemed to be the person who deals with whatever people say about him, but he's been calling it like he sees it. He's actually going to say later in the show that when it was time for Shedeur to go in 11-on-11s, they didn't have enough linemen. So it was more like 9-on-9s. Not that the Browns didn't want to give him any 11-on-11 snaps. That's very important because that goes directly against what Spencer just said. And the way that he is explaining it, like the Browns had no intentions of giving Shedeur 11-on-11 snaps. So this is how you see the title. This is how the Cleveland media is imploding because you got one guy saying, oh man, no 11-on-11. You're going to have Mary Kay Cabot saying no 11-on-11. You're going to have somebody else who was there saying when it was time for him to do his 11-on-11s, they switched and they didn't have enough linemen because they were making sure they're not overworking guys. So I think it's a little bit more to what he is saying.
And to watch this all unfold out on the practice field. So this doesn't mean he can't be the starter week 1. It doesn't mean that he is, destined to flop in the NFL. None of those things are true. It's just what was witnessed on Wednesday at practice. And so I think, though, what's interesting is like this feels by design. Everything with Shedeur feels by design for the Browns. Let me explain. Back at rookie minicamp, he didn't talk until the second day of rookie minicamp. Most of the other rookies went on the first day. They saved Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel for day 2, and they both kind of went together. And
that's going to be speculation. We're going to skip past the speculation. Let's get to here. Let's talk about Shedeur's attitude.
And I also think, to a degree, Shedeur's okay with that. Shedeur has said nothing but the right things since he's been here about the idea that he's competing. And like I think he had a quote like last week about he doesn't really talk to his family much right now because he's so focused on just playing and learning the playbook and getting out there on the field. Those things matter. Like he is focused on trying to do his part to win this job and get better and improve and prove to himself that he can do this at a high level. It's not a negative thing that the Browns are handling him this way. I think he actually embraces it. And I think that's the best thing that you can get from any of this is like the idea that there's a player who is, being told, hey, you got to earn it. And he's taking that and running with it. He's not feeling like he's obligated to be given anything. And he's going to go try to get it himself. Now, Kevin Stefanski again has said that they're rotating guys daily. And so I'm sure.
So this is, excuse me, this is the other part I wanted to play from Spencer. A lot of these guys did not do, a lot of research on Shedeur coming out of college, and it shows when they speak on him. And this is why the Shedeur Army goes at them so hard. Even in this comment section from this video 2 days ago, they're going at him. They're talking about how he's reading off a script. They're talking about how basically Shedeur is a person that works for everything he gets. It was a narrative out there that basically he wasn't the best quarterback on all the teams he was on, but since his dad was the coach, he always made him the starter. So it's just these random narratives that are out there. And this is where that unconscious bias comes in, and it comes out in their words. So saying, they've entitled this, his attitude is the key. Find me the time where Shedeur Sanders didn't have the right approach to the game. Now, if you can find me that time, then we could talk about if mentally he's not in the right space to have the right approach to the game. If you cannot find me that time, then you are speaking either from second or third hand stuff you heard from someone else, or this is some bias coming out that you might not even recognize. Because I'll give you all an example. During pre-draft, everybody kept saying Shedeur had red flags. And the red flags were he was confident, he was focused on himself, and he didn't participate at the he only wanted to participate as pro showcase. He didn't participate at the Senior Bowl. He didn't participate at the draft, and all those things he didn't throw. So those were the red flags. One thing we know is usually red flags in players coming out of college usually means something off the field where it's legal issues, issues with police, issues with being arrested, issues with drugs, women, something in that category. So they started pushing the line of what red flags were for on a prospect, and they started putting that on Shedeur. Some of these guys who didn't do the work on Shedeur pre-draft, those things are coming out. That's why anytime, if you watch me, when people start to bring up this bad interview stuff, I shut it down and I say, I believe it's a lie. And if they release the tapes and he was in there dancing on the table and listening to music and not talking to them, then I'll come on here the same way I was calling it a lie on the multiple shows. I will say I was wrong. But if they're not going to do that, I'm calling it a lie because people hide behind things that are not quantifiable. And people fall for that trap. So I usually cut people off when they get to that point of just saying, "Oh, it's the interviews." Man, miss me with that. I'm gonna scroll down. I don't know if y'all can see it. It's actually people making Shedeur work hard, but here is Gabriel throwing pick sixes since minicamp. Okay, I'm telling you, the Shedeur Army is not playing. They're not playing, and somebody else said that's because you're totally fine with losing. Somebody else said same old dumb narrative. These so-called media people from Cleveland repeat the same talking points. Every team passed on Gabriel except the Browns. Please trade Shedeur to get him off this circus team on the Browns. One thing I would say is, look, I'm a Browns fan. I'm working my way into the sports media space, and I'm not speaking the narratives. I'm going based on what I see. I think there's things Shedeur can work on, but I definitely see the upside in Shedeur, and I saw the upside in him early. I was like, man, the way he can read a defense, if he can be in a system where it's all about timing, which Kevin Stefanski's offense is all about timing, I'm like, he would dominate. And I always felt like that, and I still feel like that. So I'm not the person that's saying trade him or any of those things. But y'all see, Shedeur Army, they're not playing. They're coming at people. They're going at these content creators. They're calling them out for, misinterpreting things. They're calling them out for using the same old talking points, and they're not playing. I called it last week. I said Shedeur Sanders got an army. Let's get to the next video. All right, so for some reason, I thought the first time I watched this video, the person who was actually speaking was in the video, and I think they might have updated it and just put this like a picture up of Shedeur, but I thought it was a person on the video the first time I watched this when I was preparing all my clips for the week. Now, remember I said, the Cleveland media is imploding over Shedeur Sanders. In this clip, I'll tell y'all the title. It's time for a Shedeur reality check. And this is the Dogs, a Cleveland Browns podcast. This is, let me see if I can find the guy's name. All right, so it's kind of weird. They don't put his name in here. They don't put the guy's name in here who's the one actually speaking in this video. But in this video, he is going to tell Cleveland Browns and Shedeur Sanders fans how they need to view this situation. Now, I'm just going to tell you something. The type of person that I am at too big of an age for somebody to tell me how I'm going to root for the team or player that I'm rooting for. Anytime you are going to fix your mouth to tell some adults how they need to do something with how they view a situation, I'm calling that a big old L. And that's what he's going to do. And that's what he's going to do in this video. So I'm telling y'all, the Cleveland media, man, they going crazy this week. They all over the place. So just a quick recap. We got people saying Shedeur need to work on it, make sure his attitude is good, like he ever had any attitude issues. We got other ones pulling up stuff from 2 months ago saying it's patting the ball an issue. And we have this, I guess I just got to call him Guy because I don't see his name, from the Dogs, a Cleveland Brown podcast. He's telling people how to be a fan. So let's get to it.
Press timeline makes it nearly impossible to climb the depth chart before the season begins.
All right, so let me speed y'all up. So I'm not gonna have y'all listen to this. He's reading an article from Mary Kay Cabot. Now, I did videos 3 weeks ago telling y'all, hey, Mary Kay Cabot is good at reporting the injury report, releasing stuff from what the Browns want to put out on game day, like statuses and stuff like that. I don't go to her for anything related to football breakdowns. So remember, that's how I view stuff with Mary Kay Cabot. No diss to her. That's how I view it. I'm not saying that's how you need to view it. He is quoting Mary Kay Cabot for his reasoning for why he is telling people how they need to go forward rooting for Shedeur and the Browns. So that's to speed y'all up because we didn't need to take 8 minutes to hear him read a story.
The challenge for Sanders now becomes clear. Defy the odds, outperform expectations, and force the Browns to reconsider their quarterback hierarchy. But as the first OTA session demonstrated, the gap between celebrity status and NFL readiness remains significant, and the clock is already ticking. So that was a good article. I thought it really helped outlay everything that I have been saying online to people about this whole quarterback situation with Shedeur Sanders. Now, there was, and there's been a lot of animosity around this quarterback stat chart that ESPN Cleveland so conveniently put out for everybody yesterday. It's been shared about a bazillion times. We shared it obviously on our pages. And, obviously you want to be, with the news cycle, you want to be current, you want to be up to date. But a lot of times the first information is not the complete information. And that was the situation with this stat chart. So ESPN Cleveland, Tony Grossi, again, we're keeping stats at OTAs, but we're not the only people doing it. I'm seeing Drake May stats from OTAs. I'm seeing.
All right. So y'all know I don't like to pause it a lot, but we got to stop him right here. We got to stop him right here because even in that article that he read, Mary Kay Cabot is really stuck on when Shedeur was drafted. And I'm going to flip this on his head and show y'all how them keep repeating when he was drafted means nothing. Y'all ready? So everybody says the Browns took Dillon Gabriel with the 94th pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And at pick 144, the Browns traded up to get ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles so they could select Shedeur Sanders with that pick. They decided to take a flyer on Shedeur as his draft day slide continued into day 3. That's what they say, right? How many y'all heard that? How many times y'all heard that? Y'all hear that almost every day, right? You want to know how you flip that on his head? If Dillon Gabriel was the guy that they believed in so much, why in the world would they take another quarterback? Somebody answer that for me. Somebody answer it. Why in the world would I take another quarterback if I believed in Dillon Gabriel so much? How many quarterbacks did the Tennessee Titans take after they took Cam Ward? It don't matter who made them draft him. He's there. If they believed in him enough, if they believed in Dillon Gabriel enough, it's no quarterback that could have been on that board where they would have took, as an organization, they would have took another quarterback. You can look at so many teams who are not drafting quarterbacks after they have the guy that they believe in. It's cool, but he's here now. And you're not getting rid of him. They're not getting rid of him. Look at it. Dillon Gabriel does not look good. He doesn't look good. Nobody had him. Nobody had him as a starter in the NFL before the draft. You go look at Dillon Gabriel highlights. I'm a Browns fan. I want to see him be whatever he can be. But you look at his highlights, and it's just highlighting everybody else on that team. You don't see him carrying that team like people want you to believe. And also, that still doesn't go against what I said. If even the owner believed in Dillon Gabriel so much and he believed in the people that he put in place to make that decision, it's nothing they could do to take another quarterback. It's nothing. What quarterback did the Tennessee Titans take after they took Cam Ward? What quarterback did the New York Giants take after they took Jackson Dart? What quarterback did the New Orleans Saints take after they took Tyler Shuck? It doesn't matter who made the call. The call was made. The call was made. What quarterback? What team? What team did this? So the same way they want to flip the narrative and say They took him first. If you believed him that much as an organization, it's no way you select another quarterback 2 rounds later because you believe in that guy so much. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. So whenever people say that, I'm always going to be the one. I'm going to be the one that flips it on his head and says, if they believe in Dillon Gabriel so much, why you take another quarterback? Why didn't you take another skill player? Why didn't you take a flyer on a wide receiver? Why didn't you take a flyer on a safety? Why didn't you take a flyer on a late round linebacker considering that JLK is going to be out for the year? It don't matter who made the call. He on the team. We took 2 running backs. Rebuilding the running back room. We took a tight end to pair with Njoku. How many? It's only 2 positions that we took 2 of in the draft. We took 2 running backs because our running back room was atrocious last year. And then we took 2 quarterbacks. And everybody wants to say, man, they took Dillon Gabriel at 94, so they have to like him more than they like Shedeur. I say it's the other way. I say they don't believe in Dillon Gabriel enough. Somebody within the organization, whether that's owner, GM, head coach, somebody in the organization does not believe in Dillon Gabriel enough. And that's why, whether it was forced or it was their option or it was their choice to go get Shedeur Sanders, they went and got him. And remember, they traded their last 2 picks to move up to get him. So when everybody just wants to put this one way, all you got to do is take the logic that people are using and put that with any other team that needed a quarterback. None of them did that. None of them have a history of doing that. When the last time the Kansas City Chiefs drafted a quarterback in the first round? When the last time have the Buffalo Bills drafted a quarterback in the first round? When was the time that the Baltimore Ravens drafted a quarterback in the first round? When was the time that the Cincinnati Bengals drafted a quarterback in the first round? You know why they don't do that? Because they believe in who they have in the room. People put up these lazy narratives and they just repeat it and they repeat it and they repeat it. And everywhere they go, they repeat it and they keep saying it. And it makes no sense because all you got to do is flip it. That's all you got to do. I got another one for y'all. Browns fans. Who do y'all love? Who is near and dear to all Browns fans' heart? Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, I'm sorry. I'm going to use him as an example. This is to prove a point. Everybody loves Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is going to go down as one of the best Browns players we ever had. The Browns drafted 2 running backs, and they got Jerome Ford to cut his contract. Is Nick Chubb currently on the Browns roster? He's not. All you have to do is use the same logic. Use it for a different position. Use it for a different team. And if that logic doesn't make sense, we got to shut that thing down. We got to shut it down. They keep repeating it like it matters. How did it matter in the rookie minicamp where everybody said Shedeur looked better than Gabriel? Does it matter in OTAs where everybody's there? Everybody is saying Dillon Gabriel's arm does not look as he doesn't throw a ball like Shedeur Sanders does. Sometimes just flip stuff on his head. I have no problem flipping stuff on his head. I've been a person my entire life, ever since I was a little kid. My family used to call me the professor because I would just sit there quiet. I would listen to everything going on around me. And I would ask questions if I had questions. And I would make decisions when I was ready to make a decision based on how I view things. So for me, if you tune in Saturday nights at 7 p.m., Off the Record D, you tune in to me live, and somebody brings up the fact that Dillon Gabriel was drafted before Shedeur, I'm going to flip it on his head and say, if they believed in him so much, why did they take another quarterback? That's enough. I'm beating a dead horse at this point. Let's get back to this podcast where they're telling you how to be a Browns fan, how to be a Shedeur fan, how to root for your team. Let's get back to it. That's my TED Talk.
And Cam Ward stats from OTAs. I'm seeing all these guys. Oh, this guy threw for 5,000 yards and 37 touchdowns and no interceptions through the first 2 days of OTAs. What they freaking do? But this is what we're doing. So they've got Joe Flacco listed at 9 out of 14 completions, 1 touchdown, no picks. Shedeur Sanders 7 out of 9, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Kenny Pickett 9 of 16, no touchdowns, no picks. Dillon Gabriel, 11 out of 16, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Now, where does my issue with this stat tracker, other than the fact that it's absolutely absurd and ridiculous to be keeping OTA stats? But at the same time, I see why they feel it's relevant, obviously, because everybody wants to know how the quarterbacks are doing in this competition. It's a big deal. If you don't think it's a big deal, or you think, hey, it's just OTAs, who really cares, then you're kind of missing the point. It is a big deal who's going to play quarterback for the Browns. It always is. This year more than ever, because it's the first time under Kevin Stefanski since 2020 that the Browns are not going into the season with a clear-cut, surefire QB1. The first 2 seasons, it was Baker Mayfield. The next 3 seasons, it was Deshaun Watson. Even the first season when we knew he wasn't going to start the season, he was still the no doubt QB1 on the depth chart. He just wasn't active for the first 11 games. It was Jacoby Brissett filling in, but you knew who the QB1 was. This is the first time ever under Stefanski that we don't know who.
All right, so we're going to pause them here just to fair use and just give you updates on my views. So he said a lot there. Everybody saw the QB stat chart that was put out by ESPN Cleveland. One thing he is refusing to do is ask this question. How do we get here? Y'all know the song. I'm not going to sing it bad. How do we get here? Nobody's supposed to be here. Y'all know it. How do we get here? We got here because in the rookie minicamp, everybody came out and said, Dillon Gabriel looked better than Shedeur. And then the Browns start putting out video evidence of what happened in the rookie camp. And it didn't match with what the Cleveland media told us happened in the camp. That's how we got here. So first you got to start with that. We got here because there is a lack of belief in the Cleveland media and how they're going to report how things go when it's on their watch. Nobody believes them. And it was very quick. I'm sorry to keep saying this, but I said this earlier. I said this probably a month and a half ago. I said, these guys coming in here with these big followings and these, groups of people who believe in them, they're going to question things that are being reported about the people that they really root for. Shedeur Sanders has fans who've watched him since he was about 6 years old. 6 years old. Think about that. I think Shedeur is 22. I could be wrong. I think he's 22. So they've been watching him. We just going to call it 15 because I'm not sure if he's 22. We're going to call it 15. They've been watching him for 15 years. And they've grown to appreciate him. They've grown to follow what people say about him. They question what people say about him. And I said, these people got to be ready for this. You know what people said in my comments? It don't matter. It's the NFL. They can't make a difference. Everybody wants to be in the NFL. I said, man, y'all don't know what's coming. Y'all don't know. Now, we are at OTAs, voluntary OTAs, and the media has been questioned so much, and they are not on their A game, and they have to get on their A game when they are speaking on what's happening in these practices and OTAs and such, that they got to release the stats. That's how we got here. So it's not because of the quarterback controversy, and this is the first time we actually have a true competition under Kevin Stefanski. It's not that. It's that they don't believe the people who are reporting on what's happening there. That's the issue. If I went down, and no matter where you're watching, if you are on X, if you're on Twitch, if you're on TikTok, if I just name some people in the media in Cleveland, you can tell me if these are people you believe how they report on things. Mary Kay Cabot. I know the answer. The answer, no. Tony Grossi. I know the answer. It's another one. No. I believe his name is Aaron Hammer, who's on ESPN Cleveland Radio with Tony Rizzo. I know the answer. The answer is no. So that's how we got here. So you got to go back to how we got here and make it make sense. Not this quarterback controversy stuff. So people or off the mark on even how we got to this point. So that's why we got those stats coming out, because mainly Tony Grossi came out and said that Dillon Gabriel looked the best. And he kept going to the fact that Shedeur didn't throw as many spirals as Dillon Gabriel. What he failed to mention was Dillon Gabriel threw a pick six into triple coverage. That was one of my first videos. Not my first. Since all this stuff has been happening with the Browns, that was probably like my third or fourth video that went super viral. Ton of views, ton of comments. And what I said in the video was, if Shedeur Sanders threw this interception, would it be reported differently? And it went crazy because at the time, everybody knew it would have been reported differently. And I remember saying, if Dillon Gabriel did better because he was throwing spirals, but he threw interceptions, how could he be better than the person who didn't throw spirals, but he threw no interceptions as a quarterback? So shout out to you, Kenneth. So it didn't make sense. So that's how we got here. So let's bring it up to speed. Now we know how we got here. We took it back. How did we get here? Nobody's supposed to be here. Y'all know the song. Y'all don't want to hear me singing that drunk, that drunk sing. You know, that drunk uncle just singing at the side, playing some R&B music at the barbecue. I'm not going to be that guy. So now let's go back into him just speaking on more how people are looking at this and they're looking at it wrong. And I think it's only one more part that we need to hear from him.
Who it's going to be. So that's what makes this a unique and, obviously very interesting quarterback competition. And we are going to be following it a lot, whether, we agree with a lot of the assessments or whatever, or the methods for doing it. It's what's happening. But it's not going to stop me from trying to dig deeper and break down what these stats actually mean. Because if you guys have followed this show for a while, you know that that's what I try to do. People dog the PFF grades and some of their stats and all that kind of stuff. And we always take PFF things with a grain of salt, but use those stats to try to figure out what the deeper story is on a player or a situation. And that's what I'm trying to do here with these stats for these quarterbacks. So when I looked at the stat chart, my first question was, okay, obviously we can put completion percentages with this. Shedeur Sanders had the best. He had the 3 touchdowns and all this kind of stuff. What were the situations in which these passing completions and touchdowns and things occurred? Were these in 7-on-7 drills? Were these in 11-on-11s? Was this, offense versus defense? Was this in individual drills? Where the hell was this stuff? So that was my first question, and I did get a comment today that apparently Tony Grossi on his Land on Demand behind the paywall, which I don't pay for, we don't pay for. We've had our beef with Tony Grossi, and I don't like him enough or value him to the point that I'm going to go pay for his crap. I'll just wait till it comes out for free. But it was good to hear that behind the paywall, at least, he broke down where these stats came from. Mary Kay Cabot put out an article that, let me see if I can pull this up here real quick. So she says,
all right, we're going to skip past because it wasn't behind the paywall. It's actually one of the videos that I have for us to watch. This is from 3 days ago. At the very beginning of this video, Tony Grossi is going to break down that all the touchdowns happen in 7-on-7s for all the quarterbacks. So it wasn't that easy. I mean, it wasn't that hard to find. So that Tony Grossi video is from 3 days ago, and this is from 2 days ago. So the video where he could have found the answer was out for a whole day. So that's where I say like that lazy reporting on when you're looking into subjects. It was out for a whole day before you made this video where you could have actually went and looked and found the answer to that question. It was there. He's going to read some more from Mary Kay Cabot, but I want to get to the part where he's kind of chastising the Shedeur fans.
She kind of gave a breakdown for linemen in front of you and a pass rush coming versus nobody clear here. Okay. The 2 rookies got 0 reps in the first full team. And guess who didn't get a single 11? Is Shedeur Sanders is the 4th string quarterback for the other 3 guys. It skews the whole chart because Shedeur.
All right, he's going to say this again. He's going to keep repeating the same thing. He wasn't there. He's going based on Mary Kay Cabot. The problem is Mary Kay Cabot, every time she went and spoke on the OTA session that she was there, she said she was watching the competition between Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. That's out of her own mouth. So then she wrote an article saying Shedeur didn't get this. The problem is people who only watch where Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel were practicing at, they say otherwise. So you couldn't do the research to find out when, where, and how the passes happened, which you could have found it. You are heavily relying on Mary Kay Cabot, which she's part of the reason why we even have the stats. So this is just, it's a lazy way to do it, man. Lazy way to do it. If you're going to go down, actually it's a quote. Let me say it. I'm not even going to tangent. I promise y'all. Let me just go back to, we're going to go to my X account, and I pinned it to the top of my X. If you're going to be wrong for your own convictions. Don't be wrong because of what other people think. And this is, oh, y'all can't see it. It's right here. It's pinned. That's my pin. That's my pinned message on X. And that's from Mike Maycock's father. Moni, where you been at? You ain't been around. We was kicking it a couple weeks ago. You ain't been here. Shout out to you. Mary Kay Cabot. I said it a couple weeks ago. Mary Kay Cabot is really good for the injury report and guys' status during games. I mean, before games. And then status if somebody gets injured during a game. I don't watch her for nothing where she has to try to break down something related to football. When it comes to stuff related to football, it's too many times where she has been way off. And I just say, you know what? I can't rock with what she got going on. So let's go back to this situation. Come on now, you let me down. Now we was kicking it. We was talking the whole time. That's been like 3 weeks, a month. It's like, come on. Saturday nights at 7. Saturday nights at 7. You know where to find me. All right. So now we're going to get back to, I want to find in here, he's going to start to chastise Browns and Shedeur fans and tell them they basically need to calm down. They're too hype about
has
this
no
stuff.
stats from 11 on 11s.
All right,
He was not going against Denzel. Your ring size, that's okay. You can order a free ring size chart. But they were going to do this. You had Flacco and Pickett on one field, so the veterans were on one field, and then you had the rookies in a nice place. And this is where I want to fire guys. Like, there are some things about Shedeur Sanders on these video clips and on tape that it's very encouraging. It's very impressive, but we also need to keep it grounded in the defenders he's throwing against, fourth string tryout guys. They won't be on it. They will not be on the team. They will not be on even the practice squad come September. So we have to remember that. Also throwing to guys who will be maybe on practice squads. I mean, I know Bates and McKitty probably will be, one of those guys at least will be on our practice squad come September, but we have to keep this stuff in perspective to really get a proper evaluation. Because if we're just going to take the numbers and say, oh, Shedeur Sanders is QB1 based on the numbers alone, we're screwed. Because
I got Grossie's video coming up. It's coming up tonight. They just got to get with it. They tripping. He gonna say something like that. I played somebody last week who kind of was saying a similar thing, like trying to defend himself, telling people how they deserve or how they should be a fan. And it's like, man, y'all crazy. I'm a stubborn person, and I don't tell other grown people how they should root for a player that they like or a team that they like. And this is weird. This is a weird approach for these guys. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Because clearly the Browns don't think he's ready to go up against the first team defense because he's not yet. So maybe you guys can help me in the comments here because I do need the help with some of this stuff. When I ask for this, your feedback, I really mean it. So there's this account, there's this guy on Twitter. I don't know who he is. I don't really together a great compilation video of Shedeur Sanders from OTAs yesterday.
We're going to skip past that part. What he's saying there is it's going to be people, they do, what's the right way to put it? So on X, people just post a bunch of crap that's not true, and they use it engagement farming. That's what they do. So he's going to talk about a guy that's engagement farming.
And there's a clear pass that gets knocked down at the catch point in that video. So there's no way he could have been 13 of 13. This guy is so full of shit. Of Dillon Gabriel on a rollout and then throwing back across the field to a guy. He overthrows him, and the ball hits the ground. He reposted parent, later in the process that the Browns weren't that high on him, definitely not high, waiting to see more before they give him open opportunities. So, I posted the other day, the stat skipping out on OTAs, which happens every year. We'll get into that on the weekend whenever we do our full show. Those were some very nice highlight clips, some very nice passes. He's doing a lot of things well. And I think he's going to earn an opportunity to get looks against, second string, hopefully some first string. But the thing, and we can talk about this maybe too over the weekend, you guys submit some questions and things for the mailbag that day. The Browns, if they continue with the 4 quarterbacks and trying to do this 4 quarterback competition all the way, like they said in the article, is a tall order. But if he can do it, he can do it. And I think Shedeur Sanders would be the first one to tell you that he doesn't want skewed stats out there. It's no secret who these talking media people like and who they want to be the guy. So you have to kind of sift through those things, figure out, okay, who's actually doing well and how are they doing it? Where are they doing it? What is the real situation? Not just what these guys want the situation to be. I mean, I'm on Twitter talking, I'm posting on ESPN Cleveland's, I'm the actual stat chart itself saying, why don't you guys break this down between, that's not the same thing. Oh, it drives me nuts. And then I said, well, who's he throwing against? It's going to be silly season all freaking summer. But the good news is it is almost summer, at least based on the calendar. If you walk outside any time here recently, it's cold and rainy. It feels like it's,
All right, so there you go. Basically, he just kind of complaining about he doesn't know where the stats came from. He doesn't know how the stats, how they came up with the stats. A little bit of research, he could have found those answers. Like I said, I just find it weird that people want to tell people how to be a fan. So that's just weird to me. We're going to move on along to the next video. Let's shock the world. Let's see. We're going to go. This is another one. So last week, I started to show y'all how they want the Shedeur stimulus package by speaking on Shedeur, but they don't want the backlash when they don't do things, when they don't report things that are clear and true and honest. And then they're going to plead with you, hey, keep watching, but sometimes we just got to disagree, basically. It's like, come on, man. So this is Cleveland Browns on Cleveland.com. This is Mary Kay Cabot and two other people. The two other people don't tend to get themselves in trouble with fans as much as Mary Kay Cabot does because she just kind of makes too many mistakes. But let's get to their video.
So I got caught up on a little bit of that. And like you both said, I mean, go back and just listen to all the months of podcasts we did leading up to the draft, whether it was the three of us, whether it was me and Tim and Lance. We were all very complimentary of Shedeur Sanders and thought he was a very talented quarterback who could run Kevin Stefanski's offense. Now, when a guy falls to the fifth round like he did, that's going to change your perspective a little bit. It has to, because the NFL is telling you something. Maybe they're wrong. But I'm still sitting here on May 29th, and I still, like Mary Kay, Shedeur Sanders is the most interesting of these four quarterbacks to me. That doesn't mean that he's going to be the best of the four or that he should win the job or be QB1 right now. But he's the one that I'm still kind of just most interested in because throughout the draft process, he was the one that I really liked what I saw out of him. I liked Cam Ward the best of all these draft guys, and Shedeur was kind of...
This is where they kind of like hedging their bets by saying, hey, I say good stuff about Shedeur. Go back and look. I've been saying good stuff about him. What are you saying now, though? What are you saying now? And why are you coming out pleading with people to remember, hey, I said some good stuff now. What are we doing?
In that next tier, for me at least, with this group, and of the four that are in Browns camp right now, he's the one that I'm most intrigued by, but I'm not going to also get caught up in 7-on-7 stats. I'm not going to do it for him. I didn't do it for, I don't think I've done it for any other quarterbacks.
Have y'all ever heard somebody say, when you listening to a person speak, oh, facts. I feel the same way. I try to post stuff about Dillon too, because I don't want to come off that same way, like just kind of everybody just piling on him because they want to see Shedeur do well. But I went back and I watched a lot of tape on Dillon Gabriel, and I was like, I don't see whatever the Browns saw to take him at that position. And I think that was night 2 when they actually took him with our last pick. I was contemplating that night. I couldn't sleep. I'm like, am I going to be a Browns fan this year? I'm like, this might be the straw that broke the camel's back, where I might not root for the Browns. I was just up sitting in my bed like, I can't watch this. So it's weird because he's just kind of like he's catching a lot of heat because of Shedeur, and it's one of those situations where the Browns put him in a bad position. Like I was saying, I'm not sure if you were in the live when I was saying this, but if the Browns like Dillon Gabriel so much, it doesn't matter if Tom Brady was available in the 5th round, they wouldn't have took him. So I'm flipping it on his head where they're saying, oh, they like Dillon Gabriel so much they took him first. But if they like him so much to take him first, you would never take another quarterback for a team that could use a bunch of different positions that weren't even addressed in the draft. We could have used another offensive lineman. We could have used a linebacker. We could have used a safety. So we could have used a receiver. So them taking another quarterback shows you that maybe they didn't believe in him as much. Maybe the owner said take him. But if you look at the other teams that needed quarterbacks, none of those other teams took a quarterback and then doubled back and took another quarterback. Tennessee didn't take another quarterback. Saints didn't take another quarterback. Giants didn't take another quarterback. I agree. I think I've watched enough stuff when it comes to draft that they fall in love with these guys' personality. And I've heard a lot of people say that personality will move a guy forward even if they know the talent isn't all the way there. And that's kind of the messed up part, because it doesn't seem like Dillon is a bad kid or a bad guy or anything like that. It just seems like they overdrafted him and they put him in a terrible spot. And now he got to deal with all the pressure of being the guy who was drafted first, where the media is not letting people forget that he was drafted first. And then you got this guy who's coming in who at any point during their collegiate careers, nobody said he was better than Shedeur. He got to show that he's better than Shedeur just to fight to even be in a position for like a second string role behind if they pick one of the veterans to start. So he's not in a good spot at all, but the Browns did this. I totally agree. Let me tell you. See, this is why you got to show up, because you hit the nail on the head right there. They thought that Shedeur had money. They thought he was more lax with his money. I think that's why the guy took number 2, hoping he can sell it to Shedeur. I think they thought that Shedeur didn't care about the NFL because he doesn't need the NFL. And I always say, people work on what they care about. You don't have to, like, if you have a kid that is, 13 years old, as they get older, they'll naturally gravitate towards things that they enjoy. You won't have to force them. You won't have to say, you playing soccer, you playing baseball, you playing football, you playing basketball. They'll just gravitate towards one, and then you'll just help guide them in the path that they want to go with that sport. And it's the same way with Shedeur. You think Shedeur, if he didn't really want to be in the NFL and didn't really want to be a legendary quarterback, you see all them hits he took 2 years ago at Colorado? Facts. You don't hear nothing bad about Shiloh. I was really surprised that Shiloh went undrafted. I thought he would probably get drafted late, but it's just one of those things where I think that people, they look at situations how they would act in that position. So a lot of people in Shedeur's shoes, they would not keep going hard. They would not, keep pushing. They would have took all those sacks. They would have took those sacks last year, and they would have been like, man, I'm not about to keep getting hit because I got money now. I don't even know if I really want to do this. They wouldn't be like Shiloh, who didn't get invited to the draft combine, go to the Senior Bowl and participate, and then work to get his 40 time down, and then live in the playbook. So people completely misjudge who they are as people. Completely missed it. And now, even I think it was last week, I was saying how now people are starting to question, like, this doesn't match everything we heard about these guys. It doesn't match what we heard about Shiloh. It doesn't match what we heard about Shedeur. It doesn't match. Last week I was talking about how they asked Kevin Stefanski about Coach Prime, and he's like, yeah, I know more Pat Shurmur, but we got a good working relationship with Colorado. Coach Prime isn't calling here telling people what to do. And everybody just they misinterpreted so many situations. I looked at when Coach Prime, when he signed his extension before the draft, that should have shut down all of the he going to come to the NFL and take your job stuff. It should have shut all of it down. And he was doing that to make sure he shut it down. The media kept that thing up. And the media is now trying to keep up these situations. I totally agree. So they look at, because they wear jewelry and cars, that they blow money. That's how they look at them. They look at them like they blow money. And something else is that they really misread. They look at the fact that they enjoy making music as creative people. They look at that like, oh, they want to be rappers. But they don't put a negative to the football players who go out to the club every weekend, who drinking and who smoking. These guys in the house not getting caught up with none of the situation with women, drugs, or alcohol, and you question it. But then the people who have those situations, you look at that like, oh, that's normal. Like almost like they're supposed to have those situations where they kind of mess up with the other things. So they misinterpreted. A lot of people misinterpreted who they are as people. They never took an opportunity to get to know them as people. And they listened to a lot of stuff that people say is secondhand, and they use that to come up with how they view them. That's why I always said, I don't think it was collusion. I don't think we're going to find emails, text messages, and all this stuff where all these GMs got together and said, don't take them. I think you're going to go inside of these teams and you're going to hear a bunch of people say, I heard this, I heard that. Oh, facts. Facts. Even with the way they ask questions about them, even with the way the media keeps trying to like put a wedge in between them, the other quarterbacks and such, and they just taking it with grace. Like it's like when I went over the video of them saying Shedeur wasn't mad enough. And I'm like, what are these people asking for? You asking for him to crash out? That don't even make sense. So the whole situation with them just got flipped on his head. And this is going to be one of those situations where people are rooting for Shedeur more than I think people are hoping that he fails. Because of they look at it and they say, okay, so no off the field issues, no problems in school. Yes, definitely. They want to control Coach Prime. That's what they want. They want to control him. And since they can't control him, that's the issue they have with him. So, like when you're on the football team and they say, okay, well, we got to make the rookies do this. The rookies got to carry a bag. The rookies got to bring snacks. The rookies got to do this, and this. Every once in a while, it's a guy who comes in to the team and he says, y'all not going to make me do that. And then everybody back down. The problem is those guys who actually back it up with their play and they say, y'all not going to be out here treating me like this. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Flacco's going to play first, then Shedeur. I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think Dillon Gabriel is going to. His height is a big issue. He's left-handed. Everything he does in the offense is going to be working the opposite direction. It's going to flip the offense on his head. I know they're coming out and saying, like, it's not that difference between right hand and left hand. It's a big difference. One guy is always going to, feel more comfortable going one way than the other side. So I think Dillon Gabriel's in a bad spot. I don't see him working his way up the depth chart. Kenny Pickett is not good. I don't know what people want to think they see in him, but just all the time I watched him with Pittsburgh, I saw that he was reluctant to throw the ball. And all the times I saw him reluctant to throw the ball, I saw him as a guy who he can't work in a timing-based offense because he's scared to let the ball go. It's two quarterbacks in this room, Flacco and Shedeur. And I don't have an issue with Shedeur probably not starting the first 4 or 5 games and him just seeing the NFL speed and then him coming in. I have no problem with that because I want to see Shedeur do well for the long term. And sometimes the long term, you do a lot better if you kind of sit and you see the game happen first. And Flacco, he knows the offense. He's not going to be afraid to let the ball go. He's going to be on time. I think it doesn't make sense if the Browns try to start Kenny Pickett and not Flacco and then go to Shedeur. And I also think that Kenny Pickett probably not going to be on the team once season start. A throw from, who's the throw from that you talking about? You talking about the throw from, was it from Gabriel or was it from Kenny Pickett? That went to a whole bunch of defenders. Pickett. I don't know what I think they want to try to be one of those teams that took a guy who probably the league overlooked and say we turned him into something. The problem, Pickett also in 7-on-7s, they basically got a sack on Pickett in 7-on-7s because he didn't throw the ball. Oh, y'all can't see him? Let me see. Let's see. Let me do something for y'all. I'm going to take the thumbnail down. Everybody know what the show's about. Let me know if that helps you, free runner. Does it show it better when it's black, when I took that graphic down? All right, cool. All right, yeah, okay, solid. Appreciate it. I only see it from my end, so I see all the comments like on a separate screen. So I'm just reading away. You're probably like, dang, what are you talking about? So probably what I'll do moving forward is I will keep, I'll put the banner on or the thumbnail on just to start, and then I'll take it down. I'll leave the bottom of the screen black so everybody can see the comments and participate, and then we'll keep whatever I'm playing up top. So shout out to y'all for that. That's how you get better. You get better with feedback. So shout out to you, free runner. I appreciate it. All right, where was we at? Let's get to, in this video, I don't know if it's any more I got to play. I remember the first guy, he started doing that pleading about the Shedeur stuff, and he started saying, like, we liked them early on and all this stuff. To me, it's like, I don't think people do. One thing, even here, I think you can see it. So I always thought this was strange. They never have their comments on. So they just release all these podcasts, and you can't comment, you can't say nothing, and you can say stuff to them on X, but I would say it's weird. She just won another award. Mary Kay is a Hall of Fame reporter, but I would say the Browns fan base, I don't think they believe anything she does, like breakdown wise. Excuse me. Anything she does breakdown wise when it comes to the Browns, because she's been off too much. Like I gave the example pre-draft, she wanted to draft Shedeur number 2. Then she wanted to trade additional draft capital, go back into the first round to get Tyler Shuck, and it just made no sense. Hunter. That is a great question, and that's something we can get to. So we're going to go to Zach Jackson, and he's going to speak in here about how when it was Shedeur's turn to go up 11 on 11s, they took some of the linemen off the field. So it was more so like a 9 on 9. It wasn't, they just weren't trying to give him any action in 11 on 11s. This is Zach Jackson. This is a 15. I totally agree with that. I totally agree. It's like, basically like I know they don't mean it that way, but I take it like you're yelling at me. If you could just say your side and I can't say nothing back, I'm like, you're not going to be yelling at me. So I use some of their videos just like that I react to, but I'm like you. If I can't say nothing, I can't put my opinion on there, you ain't just going to be yelling at me about what you think. So I know they're going to get to it in there. This is a 15-minute video. I might be able to find it for y'all. It's two great things that Zach Jackson is going to say in here. When it comes to like breaking down stuff with the Browns and who I trust on their eye to understand football, Zach Jackson is number one for me. So it's going to be a lot of people out there that you're going to hear talking, but me personally, you can go through and kind of listen to different people and see who makes the most sense to you. To me, Zach Jackson always makes the most sense. And I just like the fact that he's not really nonchalant, but he's more like, I just say what I see, and he's not trying to diss people. He's not clowning people. He's just like, this guy doesn't look like an NFL player. And he just says it and just keeps it moving to the next thing. So, Hunter, I'm going to try to find that for you in this clip.
Browns OTAs right now with this quarterback competition, because I'm sure the media's having a field day with it, and I'm sure the Mike has been having some fun when you look at this quarterback competition, which is such a peculiar one between Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel. So let's do a little OTA report. They had a wave this week. You got two more in the next 2 weeks, and everyone's going to want updates on the Cleveland Browns situation, especially since Shedeur Sanders is there. So Zach Jackson does a great job covering the Cleveland Browns for The Athletic, and he's kind enough to join us right now. Zach, appreciate it. Thanks so much. How you been?
I've been busy, but I'm good. So good to be here.
So your first few days of OTAs with this quarterback competition, what are the big takeaways that everyone's freaking out about here?
Well, they've had 3, but we're only allowed to watch 1 a week, right? So we've had basically 1 rookie minicamp observation and 1 day of OTAs. And it was a different OTA because they're splitting team drills, which there really aren't many in OTAs, into 2 because they want to get all 4 quarterbacks reps. So it's a circus. And then by the time Shedeur got up as the 4th one, there weren't enough linemen to go full 11 on 11. So he was more like 9 on 9, right? So he got the fewest reps. That's how it's going to be.
All right, Hunter, so you hear that? That was the answer to your question. It was funny that, I just had that thing ready to go. So it's been reported like they were looking at Shedeur and they weren't going to give him a shot. I would say this. I would say in the middle of LeBron's runs, Shedeur is a bigger story now, especially social media is totally different. So if you're talking about when LeBron first was entering the league, I would say LeBron was a bigger talking point. I would also say when LeBron left, he was a bigger talking point. And then when he came back, he was a bigger talking point. But if you look at that window of when he was just in Cleveland and we weren't really winning, like the 06, 07, 08 and all that stuff, Shedeur is definitely a bigger talk than that time, for sure. It's not even close. Now, when LeBron came back, we went to the finals all those years in a row. I would say LeBron was, probably hired in, but it's definitely points where the Cleveland media hasn't even been prepared for how much they're going to deal with Shedeur Sanders. That's a good call there.
We'll see how that changes. But, you're out there. Joe Flacco clearly has the strongest arm. Throws.
Oh, wait, let me say this last point. So the media has been reporting, they've been reporting that like the Browns had no intentions on giving Shedeur 11-on-11 drill opportunities when that wasn't the case. He broke it down. We're not even a minute and 21 seconds into this video, and he already said basically it was because of the alignment. It was more like 9-on-9s. So this changes how you look at the situation because everybody else is saying that they're painting the picture that they didn't want to give him those reps because he hasn't earned them yet. Then when you hear him just say, no, it was because of alignment, it was more like 9-on-9s, that's a totally different situation. So everybody is saying, oh, man, we want to know the reasons and all this stuff. What I've got is I don't believe it was 13 for 13. I believe that was false that somebody reported on X. What I've got is the 7 for 9 is correct. And that's all based on what they're calling the 7-on-7s. And all his touchdowns came within the red zone. And his other passes were 7-on-7 and the 9-on-9s. Oh, facts. Free runner. That's so true. I was talking about that a couple weeks ago where I was saying the numbers that Shedeur is putting up is crazy. I totally agree. It's a lot of sports stories that I could talk about where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that, so I don't talk about it. They act as though they have to talk about it and then speak on it negatively, which I don't get. I definitely want Shedeur to be successful. Shedeur was the quarterback that I was the most impressed with this year. He was the one that I thought fit Kevin Stefanski the most because he's accurate and he can be on time. So I thought this was the quarterback I wanted. Like, I'm not sure if you were here when I was saying it. When we took Dillon Gabriel and I had to go to sleep on day 2 of the drive, man, I was crying in the bed like Stewie because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this team. So I definitely want Shedeur to be successful. And even more, I want him to be successful because he has haters on top of haters. Like, he got different level of haters than I've seen in a while. I don't know why they picked Dillon. I don't know why they picked Dillon. It made no sense. It seemed like they overdrafted him. The only thing I can try to like just wrap my head around is maybe they wanted to go Milroe. And then when Milroe got picked up by Seattle, they were like, we got to get the guy we really want, even if we take him early. That's the only thing I could think of. I can't wrap my head around why they just said 94. And then Dillon Gabriel, he put out the video of him saying like, oh, he thinks he's going to get picked 94. And then they kind of asked him like, oh, did you have an idea? And he was like, yeah, maybe a little birdie told me. And I was like, so the Browns were really probably forthcoming with Dillon, how they felt about him. So I can't really wrap my head around it. Maybe they wanted Milroe and they said, we're going to get our guy no matter where we take him at. Yeah, and the hate for Shedeur is just, I would say that's something else you were on to, Monty 1080. When you said that it's probably bigger than LeBron, I don't have the biggest. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say that. I think Milroe has a lot of great traits that people would like. I see Anthony Richardson 2.0, where they are so athletic that they kind of really don't get that much better because they always lean on their athleticism versus leaning on their understanding of the game. So that's probably the nicest way I can say about Milroe. Back to the hate. When LeBron left Cleveland and he did the decision and all that stuff, I would say Shedeur is past that level of hate. Because during that time, I remember everybody wanted to see LeBron lose. When he played in that first finals against the Dallas Mavericks, everybody in Cleveland was rooting for him to lose. Even me, I remember me and my brother, we went to Coventry to watch the finals, and they could have got a Milroe. I wouldn't have been happy with us taking Milroe, though. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't have been happy with that. It was weird because I would say 95% of the people in the bar we were at watching the game wanted to see LeBron lose. And for some reason, Shedeur has exceeded that without doing anything to break fans' hearts. LeBron broke a lot of fans' hearts when he left Cleveland. I totally get why he left Cleveland. I left Cleveland too. So I get it. Shedeur not breaking fans' hearts by leaving or letting them down or anything like that. I don't understand why the hate is so much. I think the word is like divisive. Like, and it's not his fault. And it's nothing against Shedeur. People love him or hate him. Is no middle ground for some reason. And I don't know why that is. It could be that people don't like his family's confidence. They don't like the fact that they back up what they say. Those could be the reasons. I'm not really sure. But the hate is on a different level. I think that the haters fuel like a lot of my TikTok views. And even later on, I'm going to go into I pulled some of the comments that people say to me on TikTok about Shedeur. And I'm like, man, y'all really hate this dude. Yeah, they really talk about Mason Graham. It could be that they could think that everything was handed to him, but the funny thing is all the stuff he's earning. I don't know. I can see that. I can see people not knowing Shedeur, not looking into his story, not looking into how he grew up, and them assuming that he had everything given to him. And I agree. They definitely wanted him to. They wanted to knock him off, knock some of his confidence off. That's why I think it was a power play. I think it was, we're going to show you that you're not going to just come and do things the way you want to. And then they hide it behind the fact to say, oh, you're not the athlete that your dad was. And it's like, find me the athlete now that's the same type of athlete as Deion Sanders. Find me the athlete that can play two sports. Find me the athlete that played the Super Bowl and the World Series. You can't find me an athlete that can do that. So to say he's not his dad as an athlete, nobody is. So saying that he isn't, that it's not like it's been other people that came out like his dad. So it's just one of those that I think Mason Graham also being a D tackle, he's not really going to be talked about. People didn't like the pick when they took Mason Graham, but just the fact that we got another first-round pick, and I don't think Jacksonville is going to be good this year. I want to see Travis Hunter do well, but I don't think just as a team. I'm not the biggest Trevor Lawrence believer, so I don't know if he's going to have the best year. So true. So yeah, they wanted, like when they talk about guys coming into the NFL, they always talk about like, man, what you gonna do? You gonna buy your mom a house? You gonna get your family out the hood? You gonna do those things. And it's almost like they feel more comfortable with someone who came from, who overcame the odds than somebody who didn't come from the odds. You get what I'm saying? Which I don't know how they will understand more one than the other, but I think they try to make that a knock on him that his dad put him in a different position. Which, find me the father who will work his way up to get to a point where they wouldn't try to put their kids in the best position. All of them do it. And all of them will do it. So to knock him for doing it just, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Shout out to all y'all for being here. Shout out to y'all for commenting and keeping this thing going. I appreciate y'all. Free runner. C. Jackson Dart. That's all I got to say. C. Jackson Dart. He got the jewelry. They claim he got the swag. All those things. Nobody said anything bad about it. A lot of Cleveland media are paying it. I totally agree. The Cleveland media, I think this is something that's happening. It's part of the reason why I even wanted to start like covering Cleveland sports, because I've been a diehard Cleveland fan my whole life, and I realized that they were lazy when how they did their reporting. They would speak on games that they didn't even watch, and they just kind of had a lack of understanding of the sports that they were covering. And they are doing that where they just follow what people say. You seen that too? Yeah, the dark shades at that, the dark ones. So yeah, they don't say, they love it from Jackson Dart. They love it from him. But the Cleveland media, I always said that you get these situations. It's okay when they do it. It's a problem when we do it. The Cleveland media, let me say this about them. Right. They like to go safe. They like to just repeat what other people say. One thing, I bet y'all noticed this prior to the draft. So it started out, they talk every day about the draft. And then when it came time to talk about players, they would tell you that they like a player or don't like a player, but then they would follow that up with, but I haven't watched the tape on the player. So why are you even up here trying to give an opinion on a player you haven't watched tape on? It's even, I got a small clip that I was going to show Adam and the Bull. Adam and the Bull is going to say something. We can come back to Zach Jackson and what he says. This is Adam the Bull right here. Listen to who he's going to say is the one that was providing the stats from OTAs.
A nice job making a name for himself as a young guy trying to get into this business. He's done a good job. And I don't know if he kept those stats or this friend of Shedeur kept the stats.
No, ESPN Cleveland kept the
Okay.
stats. He then he tweeted it.
So right there, I don't even need to play a lot of that for y'all. So how can you speak on a subject when you don't even know where the information came from? And this is the stuff that I was seeing. So I used to watch UCS a lot, UCSS. And last year I was like, I don't think they know about football. I know they speak on football a lot. They speak on it every single day, but I was just like, I don't really think they know. And you see how quick that was? So now, how can we listen to whatever Bull is going to say about who put the stats out? Because he was like, well, maybe Shedeur, before that, he was like, maybe Shedeur told somebody to keep the stats. Then he's like, maybe his friend, because they were talking about Boog, who was actually an agent with CAA and Young Money. They thought he might have put the stats out. This came from ESPN Cleveland. So to me, this shows that they are out of touch, because the only reason why the stats came out is because people don't trust y'all reporting. So this is another example of people not being able to trust their reporting. You can't trust it. You don't even know where you're about to have a whole conversation and talk for the next 30 minutes, and you don't even know where the stats came from. So then what's the next layer to that? If you don't know where they came from, you don't know the breakdown of them. You don't know what happened in 707s, what happened in 1111s. You don't know any of those things. And then he didn't even know that ESPN Cleveland sent 4 guys. It wasn't one person. It wasn't just Tony Grossi who was doing the stats. No, they sent 4 people who 2 guys watching both practice fields, and they're the ones who track the stats. So it wasn't even Tony Grossi who tracked the stats. It was people for ESPN Cleveland. Then Tony Grossi looked at him and just kind of matched it up to what he was seeing based on the field he was watching at that time. So how can we trust them? You can't. And part of that, I think, is they try to go on there and do a show 2 hours every single day. During this time of year, it's not enough information. It's not enough new information. It's not enough things happening. They're not going there watching the practices, so they don't have that firsthand view and knowledge of what's actually happening. And when you just fall into that point, you're going to see so many times where they wrap themselves up in circles because they don't really know what they're talking about. They don't really know. So y'all will see me. I'm only on here one time a week. It's the off season. It's not really nothing happening. We got one more OTA. I believe they're going to be able to see coming up this week. We're going to get some information from that. And everybody knows he's not. Everybody knows he's not. You know who a true 5th round quarterback is? DTR. I have no beef against DTR. 5th round quarterbacks usually don't do well. They are flyer people, and not one 5th round quarterback has led his team to the playoffs. Shedeur can change that because Shedeur did not have a 5th round grade. I'll even say everybody, even the people who didn't like Shedeur leading up into the draft, they had a 2nd round grade, and the people that had a 2nd round grade on them, people called them crazy. And when you have people who didn't like Shedeur but say his talent says he's a 2nd round grade, and he goes in the 5th round, and they even got to come and say, nah, him going to the 5th round is crazy. It shows you that. That's why earlier I flipped it and said, if they liked him so much, if they like Dillon Gabriel so much at 94, why would they ever take Shedeur at 144? And remember, they traded their last 2 draft picks to move up to get Shedeur. So to me, that says they didn't believe he was a 5th rounder, and they obviously, as an organization, didn't have full faith in Dillon Gabriel. And I don't want to see Dillon Gabriel fail. I just think they put him in a terrible spot. If it would have been reversed, if they would have took Shedeur at 94 and they would have took Dillon Gabriel at 144, now you see. So when people just keep, we can't keep 5 quarterbacks. Yes, we traded our last 2 picks to trade up to 144. And actually, Well Off Media, Bucky, he has the full video that he originally put out when they were speaking during the draft. Shedeur got the call in the 4th round that the Browns were trying to get into the 4th round to get Shedeur. So they were trying to not even wait for the 5th round. They cut that part out, but I definitely remember seeing it. He was on the phone with a lady and said, everybody's off the Browns board. They're going to try to get you in the 4th round. Yeah, he's definitely not a 5th. And there you go. Wow, how do they not value him if they traded up to get him? 2 picks. They traded 2 picks. 2 picks. Their last 2 picks in the draft to move up and get him. So it's situations where it shows that the way people are just talking about this, it shows their lack of understanding. Because they never think about it. All the times that Mary Kay Cabot says how many times the Browns passed on Shedeur, one thing she never says at the end of that? But then they traded up to get him. You don't even hear people say they traded up to get him. You hear people just jump by the fact and they just say they took him at 144. That wasn't the Browns pick. And they say, oh, well, they put the most capital into drafting Gabriel because they took him at 94. You traded 2 picks to move up to get Shedeur, so you got some capital in him too. When people were coming out and saying, oh, they don't see Shedeur being on the team, I was like, are y'all crazy? He was graded way better than Gabriel, and the Browns don't have a quarterback. I think he only edited. So it's a long video. I think the video was it was like a 47-minute video because I watched it and it wasn't on my live. True. Yep. They jumped in front of Philly. They jumped in front of Philly to get Shedeur. And I only think he took it down because it would put out some intel on how the Browns viewed people who left in the draft. Because the video is just edited. That's the only thing that's kind of missing. So it's at the point where Shedeur is going to be outside. He's outside. He's going to speak to the lady on the phone from the Browns, which I don't know who that lady is, but she called Shedeur a couple times all throughout the process when you're watching Bucky's videos. She spoke to him a couple times, and he's outside by the fire pit. She says that about, the Browns, everybody's off their board. They're going to try to get you on the 4th. And she said, keep your phone ready. Keep your phone right there by you. And that was there. Then he went back in the house, and he went upstairs with Shiloh and all that stuff. Then it cuts to him going outside on like the balcony type thing. He's sitting outside. That's when he said the thing about, man, it feel like you're in jail for something you didn't do. Then when you watch it now, you're gonna see all that, but you're just gonna, that one part where he's on the phone with the lady, it's the exact same lady who was on the phone after he got drafted, before he went upstairs, and Coach Prime said that he wanted to speak with Andrew Berry. It's that same lady, whoever he spoke with, and she even said something like, I've been telling y'all. She said something like that to Coach Prime, and then he speaks to Andrew Berry. Yeah, it's one of those things, like it's small details like that so many people miss, which that totally changes how you view the situation, especially when it comes to Shedeur. And I think that's something that people just want to kind of like write it off, like they just took him. They didn't take him as the last pick in the draft. They didn't take him, Mr. Irrelevant like Brock Purdy. So I would say the last pick in the draft is more of a gamble. Any person you give up capital for, that's a person you care about. So That's the only thing I had to show from Bull. I just wanted to show that he didn't even know where the stats came from that he was talking about, looking at, or any of those things. Let's go back to that Zach Jackson. He's super blunt, and a lot of people have already heard how he feels, but I'm just going to play this.
Throws the best ball. Everybody wants to see.
I don't know how much of this we got to play, because it's really only one clip I really want to get into my video. But let's find it. I think the GM drafted him. Everybody says owner. So I did a breakdown. I'll get back to Zach Jackson. This is a good question. Everybody says owner, but I did a breakdown of all the videos of when they took him. So remember that first video came out and they were kind of clapping, like doing the golf clap, and everybody kept showing Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry's face. The funny thing was, you know whose face that they didn't talk about in that golf clap video? The owner. The owner looked like somebody woke him up from a nap. I totally agree. Look at all those quarterback needing teams when Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. But yeah, going back to me not thinking it's the owner. The owner looked like somebody woke him up from a nap when they showed that golf clap video. And then I watched it from the other side, because remember, Bucky originally put out the video call from their side. Then the Browns caught so much pushback online that then they went back and put it together. Let me see. Let's see. Let's take a little trip. Let me pull up my X. I don't think I have it saved as a. Okay, my X is up. Let's see. I had it saved to my profile a while ago, but I took it down because I just want to be able to maintain organizations. Okay, here we go. Got it for y'all.
Explain. I have no reason.
Oh man, copyright, man. What you doing? All right, so this is the video. This is the golf clap video. And shout out, Free Runner. Hey, shout out to you, man. You've been asking good questions. You've been having me look into some good stuff. Shout out to Hunter. Shout out to Free Runner. Shout out to Monty. Shout out to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Let me make this. Actually, no, it's at a good point. So right here in the front, you got Andrew Berry in the orange. You got Kevin Stefanski in the black. But if you look over Kevin Stefanski's right shoulder, which is to the left, that's the owner. Let's see if I have this in the best quality. Dang. All right, we only, man, 720 in 2025. All right, so the owner, I don't know if y'all can see. I don't think y'all can. But the owner is the one who's over the shoulder of Kevin Stefanski, and he has on the dark color shirt, and he's right over Kevin Stefanski's right shoulder. So we're going to play this. Now, everybody says it's the owner, and I'll go more into why I don't think it was the owner. So look at, just hopefully the sound don't play. Just look at the owner the whole time this is playing. The owner, he's behind Kevin Stefanski again on this pick. This is pick 33. He just scrolling on his phone. The owner again. This is when they took Quinshon Judkins. He just looking around. And that one he has on blue. Now, when you look at all those picks, the owner, he barely looked like he is engaged in anything that's happening in that room. Pick, what was it? Pick 33. Remember, pick 33. That was the first pick of the second round. My man is on his phone, like he's like you can see he's scrolling. Here it is. That's him. He's right over Kevin Stefanski's shoulder. Let me get the front. Let me get the as best I can get it. He gonna put them glasses down. Put them glasses down so we can see. My man is scrolling on his phone. scrolling on his phone. I don't think it was the owner. This is what I think happened. This is my best guess. I think this is another key point that I really haven't heard people talk about when the selections happen. So remember, day 2, Dillon Gabriel, he was our last pick of that day. Now, the draft is not how it used to be. The draft used to really be, you see what I'm saying? Hunter, you caught it. No reaction. He didn't perk up. He didn't move. He didn't change how he was sitting. He had no body language that suggests he had any parts in any of this draft. Nothing changed. Nothing changed about him. I kind of have an idea. I'll tell you a little bit of backstory. I'll get to it afterwards on why I think he actually let them do this entire draft on their own. I'll tell you that after we go through. Man, did I lose my spot? I don't think I lost my spot. All right, so we're looking at that, and he doesn't change or anything. He's not really into it. He's letting everything happen as it's happening, and everybody is saying, "Oh man, it had to be the owner. It had to be the owner." I believe it's Andrew Berry. That's where I was at. I found my spot. I believe it was Andrew Berry because remember the way the draft happens now. Remember the draft used to be like 2 days. It used to be Friday. Used to be a little bit longer. It was like Friday and it was all day Saturday. So you didn't have that time where you had to sleep on your draft picks. The Browns went through. They took Mason Graham. They traded with Jacksonville. They got that extra first rounder for next year. They took Swessinger, number 33. They took Junkins. So we looking good. Everything looking good. You like, man, these guys, all these guys going to play. After that, they took Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel. No, I'm lying. We took Fannin, then Dillon Gabriel. When they got to Gabriel, remember, that was towards the end of the day on day 2. They had to sleep on that pick. And like I said earlier, that pick came right after, it came about 6 or 7, don't quote me on it. Maybe it was about 8 picks after Milroe got taken. And remember, if they're looking for just trying to hit a home run on quarterback, I'm telling you, I wouldn't have took Milroe, but they got Tommy Reese, who was at Alabama with Milroe. They're probably thinking, hey, we can do something with Milroe. Milroe got snatched up by Seattle. I think it was a panic pick to take Gabriel because they said, you know what? We're going to take the quarterback that we like the most, even if we overdraft him. Because what do people say? In the NFL, it doesn't matter when you take the quarterback, if it becomes your quarterback of the future. If you like him, you take him. What happened, though? They had to sleep on it. They had to look at the everything people talking about on social media. They had to look at everybody reporting on how shocked they were that they took Dillon Gabriel at that point when nobody saw him as a day 2 pick. Then they had to go through the next day. And they say, man, we just got to stick to our plan. Stick to our plan. All this is happening. Shedeur's falling. And I remember on that call that was in Bucky's video where they say their board is clear. So every person they identified was clear. And the only person who was left on the board was somebody else that they like. Because it came out that every time they met with Shedeur was great. So put those things together. You probably panicked and took Gabriel. You overdrafted him. You had to sleep on that pick. You had to look at what people were saying online. You had to look at how it was reported where people saying you overdrafted him. And they say, you know what? I got to hedge my bet. We're going to take Shedeur because he fell. We're not going to let him get to another team. That's why I kept harping on they traded up to take Shedeur because I think that was all Andrew Berry saying, you know what? Let me save myself. Let me take Shedeur. Because the Gabriel pick made no sense and nobody can really explain kind of what happened. You know why I did all that work? Because I'm telling you, I was seriously looking like I'm probably not going to be a Browns fan. The only thing is, you don't know if he's going to fall that far. The only way you would know he's going to fall that far is if it's collusion. I personally don't think it's collusion. I think it was a group think, but that's the only way you can let him fall that far. I think his fall bailed out the GM. I think it bailed him out. I think it bailed him out for sure. because that's the only part of the draft. So everybody, when they look at the Browns and they look at our draft, and they look at it and they say, okay, well, you got Graham, who's going to start. You got Schlesinger, who's going to start. Junk is going to be your number one running back. You want to know something else? What team do the Browns have the closest ties to their front office? Do y'all know the team? It's the Eagles. It's the Eagles. I believe it's Andrew Berry's brother who works in the Eagles front office. How would you know that the Eagles, who have Jalen Hurts, is looking at Shedeur because he's falling? How would you get that information? They didn't jump in front of a team who was quarterback needy. They jumped in front of a team who just came off the Super Bowl. How you get that information? Who the Browns been having joint practices with? Who the Browns been trading with? Who did the Browns get Kenny Pickett from? Got him from the Eagles. Who do the Browns talk about they want to build their team up like? The Eagles. Who would expect the Eagles to be the team that's going to take Shedeur out of all the teams? Yeah, I agree, Hunter. It's no way that Dillon's going to beat out Shedeur. And that's why I say, like, the Browns put Dillon Gabriel in a very bad spot. All they had to do, if they just flipped it, if they just would have reversed, if they would have just took Shedeur first, because how do you win when kind of everything is stacked against you? You know, you're going against a guy, you were drafted first, but they tried to Cabot to get him. You might think you're better than him, but so far he's performing better than you in practice. He has the team. If you watch anything where Shedeur is live streaming, or if you watch anything where they're around the other players, they all just are hovering around Shedeur. So they believe in him. So it's just that's why I say, like, none of it really makes sense. And the way it happened, I think it was a panic move. And then they just said, we got to fix the panic. So they definitely didn't put Dillon's not in a good spot. He is not in a good spot. And that's why, like, even let's get back to Zach. Zach is very harsh with how he speaks on Dillon Gabriel. But I tend to believe Zach because last year he was sounding the alarm about our offense. He was like, the offense is trash. They can't make a throw more than 4 yards. He was saying Deshaun was holding on to the ball too long. And everything he said came true once they start playing. Let's get to the spot. I think he's going to talk about the quarterback.
Shedeur, he's been impressive. You talk to people in the building, they say he's been impressive. He's only been in the building like 16 days at this point, right? So what this competition is, Zach, right now, for at least 2 more months and probably beyond that, it's 2 different competitions. It's Flacco versus Pickett for the starting job, and then it's the 2 rookies positioning themselves against one another, but really just in the scheme of things to be ready. So I think it's 12 of the 26 years the Browns have been back. They've had at least 3 starting quarterbacks. No one expects this team, to be really good this year, and if they are, it probably means that Joe Flacco took this opportunity and was outstanding, and then the rookies will just sit and watch, right? At least to a certain point. So there are probably twists and turns left. There isn't a lot to see, but I understand the interest in it. And it's interesting to us too, because we don't know what's going to happen. I think Joe Flacco is going to be the number 1 starter, the week 1 starter, but who's starting in week 5 and week 8 and week 13? I don't know. And how many of those games are relevant to this season versus the bigger picture of a team that has 2 first-round picks for 26? We'll find out.
If you're right on that Joe Flacco is starting week 1, I've always thought, like how you kind of just laid it out, it's Flacco against Pickett for week 1, and then you have Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. I never thought neither would not be on the roster. So does it feel like whoever loses between Flacco and Pickett, that they'll be sent somewhere else or just maybe outright released?
I think that's probably the most logical road, but there really are multiple roads here. The Browns don't have much at all committed. The guaranteed money to Pickett and Flacco combined is not even what like a low-tier starter that's somewhat established makes, right? The guy to whom they have the biggest commitment is Dillon Gabriel, right? And everyone is laughing at them for picking him in the 3rd round. So nobody else was doing that. So we will see how that goes. They might keep 4. Someone might get injured. There might be a trade opportunity for a team.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying Dillon got put in just a bad spot, just a very bad spot. It is. it's almost like a lose-lose. Another thing I want to say about, I know like Shedeur, I'm a Shedeur fan. Shedeur fans who want to see Shedeur start game 1, I don't see that happening. And the reason why I don't see that happening is because basically they're going to have to make, once you go to Shedeur, you can't come off Shedeur as a starter. And I think they know that. So I think they're going to have to give everybody every opportunity first as he's just climbing and showing that he's just better than all of them. So that's why I think that Flacco's going to start the season. I looked at Flacco's stats from last year. I looked at how he did. He actually, it's crazy. So Flacco, he wasn't the starter. Anthony Richardson took himself out of the game and said he was tired. They benched him after that. They made Flacco the starter. So at that point, you're thinking, man, Flacco's going to carry the team. Flacco couldn't really carry the team. Then they had to make Anthony Richardson start again. So I think we're going to get 4 to 5 weeks out of Flacco. I totally agree. That's the only question. I don't think Kenny Pickett, everybody's saying Kenny Pickett is going to be like this resurrection project. I don't see it. I just don't think Kenny Pickett can play on time enough in Kevin Stefanski's offense. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. I would say a lot of people in Cleveland media are saying that Kenny Pickett is the number one option. I disagree with that. Agreed. I agree with that. And you know what the crazy thing is? Fields, he got put in such a bad position, and I think he's actually going to do good this year. I think he's going to do good with the Jets. They should have a decent running game. They got some receivers he can throw the ball to. So I think he should be a lot better for the Jets. And totally agree. If you got 2 first-round picks next year, everybody is saying it's a better quarterback class. That's all projection. They don't really know. I think that you break it down like this. Give Flacco the first couple games. I'm sorry, he's going to be the sacrificial lamb earlier in the year. Then after he takes kind of those hits early, then you say, okay, I don't see us being better than 2-3. At 2-3, you can start looking at a quarterback change coming, especially if you end up being 2-4. When you're in a situation where you have rookies and you got to find out if they can work. I think they really only are going to want to look at whichever rookie wins the battle between the rookies. And if I had to just pick who I think is going to win, I think it's going to be Shedeur. And I think at that point, this has to just go to Shedeur's team. Real practices, I looked it up. I believe, what's the date? Let me see. I don't want to tell you the wrong date. I can find it for you real quick. I don't want to be incognito. Let's go here. Is it still there from when I searched it? It's not there. It's not training camp. It is. I think it's regular OTAs. I think is what they're calling it. Let me see. May 27th. Okay. Okay, 6 OTAs. The OTAs go through the 6th. And then mandatory minicamp, that's going to be June 10th through the 12th. And the Browns they actually have a schedule that I looked at a couple weeks ago. It's not coming up here. But I looked at their off-season schedule a couple weeks ago. But the time that matters is going to be, where'd I go? It's going to be once they do minicamp, June 10th. That's when it'll be real. Yeah, June 10th. So up until then, we're just going to get a whole bunch of stuff. June 10th should be when all the vets are there and it's full on. You know what, though? I think this is what I think. I think he has the potential to be ready by week 1, but I think they want to give him some time. Cleveland always had a history since '99. We always put our starters out there. I mean, our rookies out there, and it never ended well for us. So just as an organization, they've been kind of pulling that back and kind of holding guys off a little bit. And I'm not against a guy seeing the speed of the NFL to start the year, especially a quarterback. Now, if it's a running back, I think they can kind of adjust a little bit more. Even a receiver, a top flight receiver, they could adjust a little bit better. But I think with a quarterback, especially if we're looking at, I say you weigh the pros and cons. If we're looking at Shedeur and saying he could potentially be our starter for the next 10 to 15 years, what is 4 weeks of waiting and letting him just watch? I think that 4 weeks of letting him watch is way more valuable if he's going to be our starter for the next 10 to 15 years. We won't even think about these 4 weeks. These 4 weeks basically never happen. I mean, I know this is the top of the top, but look at Mahomes. You know, he sat. Look at Lamar Jackson. He sat. Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, tickets are going to be crazy. Tickets are definitely going to be crazy. I know I'm getting to a preseason game because I think that's going to probably be the best bet to see him early. It's a preseason game, so I'm going to get to a preseason game for sure. Yeah, I think that 4 or 5 weeks, in the grand scheme of things, you never think about it. Look at, I think I was going to say Lamar. Look at Lamar. Lamar, did he sit for about 8 weeks? I think he sat for about 8 weeks before he got in for Joe Flacco. So, you know, the grand scheme, if we go on long term, he has the potential. That's what I would say. Shedeur definitely has the potential to turn this thing around, and he also, this is the right quarterback pairing for him. I'm telling you. And once they go to Shedeur, it's no turning back. It's no turning back. And another thing, like with the Cleveland Browns, you don't have to throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns for the Browns to win. The Browns, when our offense is the best, we have a solid running game. We get some good play action. A quarterback doing really good for us. Look back at the Baker years. I don't think Baker ever, well, let me take that back. Baker probably only threw over 300 a couple times. Most games, Baker, you need about 225 to 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, couple rushing touchdowns, 1 or 2. With our defense, you a made man. Made man in Cleveland. So our team is not designed to be the team that's going to score 48 points. If we scored 15.2 points a game last year. If we can get that to 24 points a game this year, super tough division, super tough. I mean, we match up really well with Cincinnati. Cincinnati is losing a lot of guys on defense. The Steelers are waiting on old man Aaron Rodgers, which, hey, just keep waiting on them. But their defense is always going to be solid. And then Baltimore is Baltimore. So one of my really good friends is a Steelers fan, and we do like a little small wager, little friendly bet on the game. And we don't always beat the Steelers when we should. I think they still have a job. Oh, thank you. Hunter, your questions have been very timely. It was something that when I was talking about the draft, I said I wanted to say. So the reason why I don't think that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are on a hot seat is because I think that the owner pushed for Deshaun Watson. And he came out and said, because we didn't really know who really made that final push for Deshaun, because Deshaun turned us down and said he didn't want to come here. Going to a fully guaranteed contract, that definitely is something that has to come from ownership. And it seems like he probably was the one that signed off on it. And they took the blame and said it was on them, swing and a miss. So I think they have a mulligan year this year, because before the Shedeur situation kind of happened, they're probably saying, hey, we haven't had a first-round draft pick in 3 years. We did the trade. We lived with it. We bit the bullet. We never came out and said it was on the owner. And then now we got first-round draft pick this year. We got 2 next year. So I think they are good through the year if we win more if we win 5 games, they get to 5 games, I think they're set. Now, if we win 3 games, I don't think the owner will sit through that. But 5 games, because if we win 5 games, say we start out the year rough and we got Joe Flacco starting. I guess Kenny Pickett's on the roster. Say Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, whichever one you pick, they start. And we don't start that great. But then Shedeur comes in and he doesn't have to win as a rookie. He just has to give you hope. So when Baker came in to start at the end of the year, Baker had the rookie record for touchdowns that he took from Peyton Manning, and he gave us hope. It wasn't like we went 16-0 that year or we won all our games in the second half of the year. Baker gave us hope that he could be a quarterback of the future, and that's all they need from a young guy. Shedeur comes in and we get to 6 wins. Say at the beginning of the year we won at 5, and then to end the year, he can get us 5 wins. Even if still it's a losing season, it'll give enough hope if you have the quarterback set that you say, okay, we're going to let these guys run it back with the full allotment of draft picks next year and then see what they could turn that into. So I think that's how, I think that's how they can do it. So Baker is a sore spot for a lot of people, but people don't go to what happened with Baker at the end. The last season that Baker played for us, Baker injured his shoulder, throwing a pass. No, he threw the pass. It was an interception, and he went to make a hard tackle by the sideline and messed up his throwing shoulder. And Stefanski was a young head coach at the time, and he kind of put the decision in Baker's hand to keep going out there and start. But it got to the point where defenses knew he couldn't throw the ball with power. He had no velocity, and it just trickled down to being bad. Towards the end of that year, then Baker wanted to say he doesn't want to play. He ended up not playing the last game of the year, but once it got to around, I think it was our 13th or 14th game, Baker was kind of hitting in the media that, oh, well, it's up to him if he plays or not, and, he don't really know if he's going to play. And then once he sat out that last game, it was fractured. And he kind of hinted in interviews that Stefanski was kind of putting him out there, airing him out to dry by throwing the ball too much against the Steelers. And he kind of got beat up versus them. So it was just one of those situations where it was a ticking time bomb. And we had to trade him because at that point, Baker wasn't going to be a backup to Deshaun. He didn't want to go through that situation. Once it got out there that we were interested in Deshaun, before the deal even got done, that's when Baker said he thanked the Browns fans and said he wasn't coming back. Then Deshaun turned us down. So we went from having a quarterback to possibly upgrading a quarterback to Deshaun told us no, and Baker said he don't want to play for us no more. He want to be traded. So their hand was forced. And, of course, they guaranteed Deshaun the money. And then they said from there, we just trade Baker. And they tried to mend things with Baker in those days in between. And Kevin Stefanski and the team couldn't really get in touch with Baker. He just wasn't talking to him no more. So at that point, it imploded, and we traded him. I think that people fast forward to how Baker is now with Tampa Bay. But you got to remember, Baker went to Carolina. Carolina's not the best example of what to do with quarterbacks, but he went there. He didn't produce as much as he wanted to. Towards the end of his stint with Carolina, they had him on scout team. And then, they had him at scout team safety, which is crazy. Then, he went to the Rams and had that historic comeback in that game. And then he landed on his feet in Tampa. So I think that Baker looks a lot better. He's a lot more mature, but Baker kind of had some maturity issues towards the end of his time in Cleveland. He used to go back and forth with the media. I'm pretty sure it was Mary Kay Cabot that he was. Yeah, it was Mary Kay Cabot. He went at Mary Kay Cabot one time. Let me see if I can remember what he went at her about. I think Mary Kay, so Progressive Insurance headquarters is in Cleveland. And Baker he had all these Progressive commercials. And I think that he people just forget that he bounced on all those teams towards the end before he landed with Tampa. I think that in the media, they started to say, oh, your quarterback needs to play better and stop having all these progressive commercials. And Baker said something to the effect of, she just saying stuff for clickbait. And that was beef. She married to somebody. I don't know who. You know what the crazy thing is? Like I said, she's a Hall of Fame reporter. She just got some award this week, actually. Let me pull this up for y'all. Because some of the stuff don't even match. And I think she announced it. I think she announced it on her X. She won the Bill Nunn Award for her long and distinguished contributions to the coverage of professional football. And this is the Pro Football Hall of Fame who sent out this tweet announcing her winning this award. So it's kind of crazy. Like it kind of don't really match like that. Like the fans question because it seems as though she's always kind of stirring stuff up between like players and kind of just, holding on to like drama and situations like that. So, the fans kind of go at her and she keep getting awards, which, I don't know the value of those awards at that point, but, she keep getting awards. So somebody believes that she's doing good. And Free Runner, did I catch that right? Did you tell me you were a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? Let me scroll back through the chat. I think I heard that. I think I saw that, I should say. How do you feel about your quarterback situation? On the outside looking in, to me, I think Pittsburgh, unfortunately, needs to have like a bad year one of these years to get a good young quarterback, but they're kind of stuck in that point of Tomlin doesn't really want to have that under 500 year on his record. So they just stuck in a bad spot. You follow them on everything. So I would say this. I'm a big Ohio State fan. Ohio State quarterbacks haven't really done the best in the NFL, and they're hard to grade because if you play quarterback at Ohio State, what are you going to have? A lot of times you're going to have a good to great offensive line. You're going to have Will Howard had great running backs, and he had great receivers. Because how many years would you say that Ohio State has basically been wide receiver U? Every year Ohio State has a receiver coming out that does well in the NFL. So it's hard to grade quarterbacks coming from, Ohio State. I want to see Will Howard do well. I don't want to see him do well against the Browns, but I want to see him do well. Yeah, people think it's easy to beat a team that actually goes in to the year knowing that it's going to be a rough year and you lose. And I think that when you're a winning organization, it's hard to just kind of punt on a season. It's hard to, because everything you preach every single day is, we fight and we fight to the end, but then you're stuck. And yeah, he was 7th round. He was late. Y'all been kind of stuck ever since Big Ben, and it was a time where Big Ben's last 2 years, one of those last 2 years didn't need to happen, and y'all could have got that reset then. And Big Ben just kept keeping y'all just close enough, And it was like, bruh, just go so we can reset this thing. And he just wouldn't do it. I think I think he has the potential to look better than he did last year for the Jets because he's further removed. But then on the flip side, he's older. And once you go past that 40 mark as a quarterback, if your game isn't Tom Brady, where you are basically beating the defense with your brain and your mind, I just don't know if your body can hold up for it. I mean, I wouldn't be holding out for this. If I was the Steelers at this point, and Aaron Rodgers, he don't want to be on OTAs and all this stuff, I would say, man, all right, what's the next best option? Which they don't got good options. Next best option is Kirk Cousins. And Atlanta fumbled that situation. Fumbled it. Atlanta should have took that L. Facts. Joe Flacco, I think his body just gives up after a certain while during the year. And he just, it's not normal for these guys to be great after 40. It's not normal. I know we see it a little bit more. Guys are trying it, but you kind of look at the years that they're having. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers last year, didn't he have like 24 touchdowns, seven interceptions or something like that? So I don't even think Aaron Rodgers had the best year last year. Facts. Oh, no, I lied. He had 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So if you look, going all the way back, he hasn't had this many interceptions going back to like 2010 that he had in 2022 and 2024. Yeah, I think he's in that weird spot. It's when you listen to guys talk about and they say they want to retire, he seems he's 70% mentally retired, and that 30% still wakes him up where he's like, I can show these people I'm still good. And he's just kind of stuck in that, if he was 70%, I still can do this, and 30% probably retired, I think he would be a lot better. But would it be in the reverse? And him just saying, you know what, I don't do OTAs no more. Once you start setting stuff before it happens that you're just not going to do, you don't really want to do it. Or you at least not 100% bought in. So at that point, man, go make you some money somewhere else, man. They got money for you. Just go talk about football. They got money for you. Look at the money Tom Brady got. It's money for you. So you don't got to put yourself and your body through that. Yeah, I wouldn't hold out. I would go after Kirk Cousins, but Atlanta fumbled that bag with Kirk Cousins. They should have just released him and just moved on. It's becoming a problem now. Kirk Cousins, he shouldn't be at OTAs. I wouldn't be at OTAs out of him, but they're gonna have to eat more of all that guaranteed money they gave him. Now, I know everybody said Cam was a hater. Cam Newton was a hater when he was talking about all the money that Kirk Cousins then got out the NFL. But they gave him all that guaranteed money last year only to draft the guy right after that. And then you are playing hurt, which that puts you in a bad spot because you don't want to lose grip of your spot to the young guy. Way too much money. That's why when people were saying that the Browns are going to get Kirk Cousins, I'm like, we can't afford Kirk Cousins. Only way we could afford Kirk Cousins if we got the Russell Wilson deal that the Steelers got last year. If we didn't get that vet minimum deal when he was still getting paid by Atlanta, it was no way. We couldn't trade draft capital and pay Kirk Cousins $20 million. Just think, we'd have been paying Deshaun, we'd have signed some rookies and paying Kirk Cousins. It's no way. R2, Kenny Pickett, and Flacco, I don't even think they equal 6 or 7 million combined. We couldn't go give Kurt $20 million. We couldn't take on $20 million in his salary. Once Atlanta kept him, I was like, he ain't going nowhere. Atlanta just they overplayed their hand. If they didn't trade him early, and he didn't want to be traded early, and they also they gave him a no trade clause at that too. It's like, what did y'all think y'all were getting out of Kirk Cousins at that age? Oh, they are. They definitely are. You can look at, for a while it was Minnesota, but now it is the Jets. The Jets is always getting the old quarterback, and now the Steelers. And I was looking up something pre-draft where it hasn't really been that many superstar quarterbacks or top-tier free agent quarterbacks that leave a team and then go win a Super Bowl for another team. So even taking that approach with going with the older last leg QBs, it's fool's gold, because it's not, you can't find where it turned out into something great. It's only Tom Brady. And if I can just off the top of my head name the person, that means they're the exception to the rule, because that means it fails more than not. I mean, I'm a Browns fan, so keep getting all these old quarterbacks. go pull a quarterback out of retirement for the Steelers. Yeah, keep on. What other old quarterbacks y'all want? Let's see if I think I basically hit all my points that I wanted to get to tonight. I really appreciate y'all being tapped in with me for all this time. This has been good. We already know what Zach Jackson feels. Everybody's gonna clip that up. Let's see. Let's go through here. I gotta do it. Tony Grossi, he is too easy. He too easy for me to use for my clips. So facts. Brett, what you got? What you got?
Gabriel went and Flacco didn't go. Yes.
All right. So keep in mind that there was a randomness, it seemed, to who went first, second, third in various parts of practice. But okay, we had our team of ESPN Cleveland tabulate all the throws. This was only in 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s. These were not individuals, just thrown to receivers. Yeah. And so here's how it went down. Kenny Pickett was 9 of 16.
Yep.
Joe Flacco was 9 of 14 with 1 touchdown. I'll get to the touchdowns in a second, you Shedeur fans. Dillon Gabriel was 11 of 16, 2 touchdowns, an interception off a tip at the line of scrimmage by Mason Graham. Didn't get the number of the interceptor, but he caught it at his shoe tops.
Yes. That great.
So you hear how that's what you was talking about, Moni. He was saying, oh, you Shedeur fans, sit down. We're going to get to the touchdowns. And he's basically just going to say that the touchdowns came at 7-on-7s. But you the reason why you got to have those stats, because people called you out from before. They called you out when you were saying Dillon Gabriel was doing so much better and he threw the interception, and then the Browns is the one that put it out. So let's see if I have anything else. Also, this goes into something I was playing earlier where the one guy was saying, where did the stats come from? How do we get the stats and all that? Right, like he doing us a favor. You're not doing us a favor. You trying to keep us off your neck. Yeah, so that's how easy it was. And this actually came out prior to, so that guy should have easily been able to find this. We already went through the Mary Kay. I think I got through. Yeah, I think I got through all of what we needed to play. Yeah, I think I got through everything. Let me check one more thing, what we got up here. Yeah, we hit all the topics. It's been really great having y'all here with me tonight. I really appreciate y'all participating, y'all asking questions, y'all chiming in. Shout out to Monty, Hunter, Free Runner. I think I'm missing one person. Shout out to Hunter for the follow. And also, I really appreciate y'all letting me know. Hunter, man, your timing. Let me tell you. I really appreciate y'all letting me know about the bottom of the screen. So I'm gonna do that going forward. I'm gonna start off with my thumbnail and then I'm gonna take it down. So, Hunter, I watched that. I watched it and I thought it was really, really, really good. I'm not gonna spoil it too much for you, Monty. When he spoke on the Travis Hunter, Richard Sherman situation and how he got into it with Asante Samuel all those years ago and they didn't talk. and how his words meant so much because everybody looks up to Prime as a DB, and how he got Travis Hunter and Richard Sherman on the phone. I thought that was great because he took a situation that he probably wanted back or wanted to handle differently, and he made sure that, you know, he got them on the same page. And that's one of those situations where Richard Sherman, I don't know how he missed it, but Travis always spoke about how Richard Sherman was the person that he watched. He always said that. And Richard Sherman was like, oh, he's a normal receiver. Anybody can say that. Anybody else can say that. But since it's Richard Sherman saying you just a normal receiver, that'll crush a player who always looked up to you. So yeah, it was really good insight. I watched that whole thing. I thought that was really good that they got together. They talked through some things. They talk about the Hall of Fame. So yeah, that was definitely a good watch. If you haven't seen it, Free Runner, definitely finish it. Monty, definitely check it out. It was a good watch. I definitely like that. It's about an hour and change long. So, but it was definitely a really good watch. I like it because it just shows the power of your voice. You know, you have more power over people who actually look up to you than the people who kind of don't care. So, that's what we got. So I put something new together. I want y'all to see how. Let's see. Let me change this topic. So I'm going to show y'all a couple of comments that I get on my TikTok. Let's put this here. And let's get this down. Oh yeah, we don't need this. Take you down. Take you down. And here. I might have to make that bigger. So these haters, and I might have to adjust this. This is the person who actually came up with one of the topics that I went over earlier in the show. People want Sanders fitted for his gold jacket based on camp numbers. And I don't know, like these people that hate on Shedeur, they talk to you so much. They respond so much. Like I have on my post on TikTok, I have people where we going back and forth 20 comments. I'm talking to these people 2 days because they that much of a hater of Shedeur. And he posted this because all I posted was the stats. I posted the stats that ESPN put together and I put music behind it. And this is what he said. They want him fitted for a go-to jacket. And I said, I want haters as dedicated to me as y'all are to Shedeur. Said, make whatever you want about the numbers. I appreciate the transparency from ESPN Cleveland. Then he says, I'm just waiting until they at least get into preseason games so we can see how him and Gabriel perform at full speed. And this is the person who told me to go watch that clip on Breakfast Ball saying they're unbiased. Like, they're totally biased. The bald guy can't stand Shedeur for whatever reason. And Mark Schlereth, his words don't even match when he's talking about the Browns or when he's talking about the Giants. So he's definitely biased. But y'all will see it. If y'all see my posts on TikTok, y'all will see these haters. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. So this is somebody hating on Travis Hunter. And it took me a minute, but then I realized they didn't watch my full video. So I put up a clip about how people were talking about Travis Hunter and they were kind of knocking him, saying Travis Hunter doesn't run good routes. One day he had on like short cleats and it looked like he couldn't get his footing right. Another day he had on different cleats. His footing was fine and he was catching everything. And I just made the video and I said, dang, y'all hating this much because pre and post draft, y'all said Shedeur wasn't good. Y'all said everybody just, you know, it was all on Travis Hunter. He was the one that made Shedeur. And then now y'all saying Travis Hunter is not a good receiver. So I'm like, y'all hating so much. Which one is it? Because it can't be both of them is trash. I'm like, y'all hate so much. Y'all don't even know which is which. So he was just jumping all over the place. And then once I got to the last comment, I realized I was like, he didn't watch the whole video. It's funny you said that, Monty. I said it. I said you moving the goalposts because I was like, did he look like a high school receiver when he won the Heisman? And he said I was moving the goalposts. And I'm like, this clip is not from high school. This clip is not from college. And he said, oh, you should have played college clips. And I was like, come on. So I'm trying to figure it out. And then a day later, I realized, I'm like, dang, he didn't even watch the video. All right, let's get to the next one. This person, oh my goodness. So this person, Mr. Cool Breeze, he was on, I put a post up about Dillon Gabriel when he threw the interception, when basically everything that initially came out from rookie camp was Dillon Gabriel looked great. Then all the questions started when the Browns posted a video of Dillon Gabriel throwing an interception, the pick six, to Schlesinger, and he ran it back. And my video was basically saying, do you know what they will be saying if this was Shedeur throwing it into triple coverage and it being a pick six? And this is what he said. They're playing flag football now. Dillon was third in the Heisman. You got fooled in school on draft day, and you're listening to the non-football overhype again. Fifth rounders don't make teams. And I said, let's use your logic. How does the better QB throw into triple coverage with no lineman blocking? And he was dancing all over the place, moving that goalpost all over the place. The funny thing is, y'all have listened to me, just even if you only listen to me speak on football tonight, do you think I don't know what I'm talking about? Do you think I'm just overhyped about Shedeur and that's the only thing that I see? Do I come across as a person who seems to not understand the game of football? Do I seem like a person who has not looked into subjects to be able to speak on them? Everybody know, it's crazy delusional. Everybody knows Shedeur was not a fifth round talent. If you want to be, what did people used to do when we was kids? Where you got to look into stuff. I question everything. When I'm trying to think of it, when we was kids and like people would like they'd tap you and then call you a name or something and then run like that. That's kind of what these people do. They just call you something with no. They don't look at anything about you. They don't look at you speak. They don't watch any of your videos. Me, I'm not that person. If I'm going to speak on a situation, I'm looking all the way into it before I really even get into it. I'm not going to put myself out there like that. And then also what people don't like is it's been times where I've said stuff that was wrong or I didn't finish a video like on X and I'll say something wrong. I'm the first one to say, you know what? You right. I didn't finish the video. He was making a different point than I thought. And people don't even like that about you because they like, nah, this is the time I get to clown you. You can clown me. I messed up. So that's a Mr. Cool Breeze. I even told him, I said, man, you know what? You so good for engagement. I want you to comment on all my Shedeur posts. And then that's when he finally stopped commenting. This is another one. So Dallas Unknown, he says, popularity doesn't make you a good quarterback. That's why he wasn't drafted in the first round. He went to these job interviews not prepared. So when people say that, first off, I believe that's a lie. I believe that when people hide behind things that you can't quantify, that's the easiest way for people to lie to you. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's cool. So I said, what did he do specifically? What did he do in the interview specifically? And that's where it stops. When people just get you to just keep repeating things and just say it, and they give you no substance behind what actually happened, I don't just believe it. And even if you look at it, I really dug deep into that. Boomer Esiason said Shedeur was off three people's boards. You had all the Steelers reporters saying that it doesn't matter to pick, that Shedeur wasn't going to be a Steeler. That don't have nothing to do with interviews. You got the Giants, who are the ones who put out the most stuff about Shedeur, and they were meeting with Shedeur. They took their last meeting with Shedeur. They were the last team he met with. So I believe all them teams was lying. I believe all those people was lying about what they were saying. And nobody can say, man, he jumped on the table like Bobby Schmurder and was dancing, or, nobody can say it. And I even broke it down in real time when Todd McShay was saying it. I was breaking down Todd McShay's clips and I was letting it play. Now, I like to talk. I was letting it play for 3 minutes straight. And he was saying a bunch of goobly-gar. It was word salad crazy. It was Shedeur went into the meeting and it wasn't bad per se, but it wasn't good. And he was unprepared, but it wasn't like he did anything wrong. And I was like, that don't even make sense. I used to be a recruiter. Y'all know how many interviews I did? So I'm interviewing somebody sitting right in front of me. Do you know what I say to them when I know that they're not being selected for the position? Thank you. You will hear from us within 24 hours. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. You know why I say that? Because they're going to get that email and say you wasn't selected. I don't go tell nobody a story about the person. I don't go and, tell my manager, like, man, that person was so bad. You don't do none of that stuff. You just keep it moving and you go. So that's how I knew, just like, man, these people they just straight up lying. And let's see, do I have one more? No, that's all of my comment creeping that I have. That's just something I'm going to do from time to time. Malik and Shedeur? Malik who? Might be slipping my mind. Yeah, but that's comment creeping. That's a new segment I wanted to add where people are just, they say crazy things and the haters go, Janet Giants. Got it. Okay. Yeah, man. Shedeur would look crazy with neighbors. I was watching when the Browns played the Giants last year, and Daniel Jones was that? No, that had to be 2 years ago. Now. Was that 2 years ago we played them? Is this? Hey, I was struggling over here. I was trying to figure it out. I'm like Janet, Giant, neighbors. I was lost. Whenever the Browns played, they still had Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones actually asked to be released last year during the season. Okay, that was last year. So when the Browns were playing the Giants early in the year, I remember in the second half, it was in the second quarter, they just started throwing the ball to neighbors every drive. Every drive, they just kept throwing the ball, force feeding them. Then in the second half, when they got by the red zone, we were still playing defense like they were throwing it to anybody but him. He balled out against us. And I was just like, man, this dude is crazy. Because you would think that a team that kind of is known for having some better cornerbacks, you wouldn't just let one guy go off. And neighbors went crazy. And I was like, man, these LSU receivers are something. Like, I know Ohio State is wide receiver U, but these LSU receivers, they're good. So, yeah, seeing neighbors do that, I was like, okay, he could do something. Even neighbors, he was on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, and he was saying what they did to Shedeur was wrong. And, he was saying he thinks Shedeur going to be good. So, we're gonna see how it all turns out. We're going to see. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all staying here with me all this time. Why did Jones want out? Jones wanted out because he saw the writing on the wall. Remember, like he was playing, then they start going to DeVito, and then DeVito kind of was doing okay for a couple weeks, and they weren't making it kind of fair for him just to get a shot to get back on the field. And then he like, man, just let me go then. And then remember also, they moved him to third string. They moved Daniel Jones to third string quarterback, and they had him on not the practice squad. They had him on the scout team. I don't know, man. When you get on when the NFL puts you on scout team, that means they don't care about you no more, basically. So they put him on the scout team, and then I think DeVito had like 3 weeks of him being like sustainable, and that was about it. And everybody talked about his agent more than they talked about him. But yeah, they were just kind of playing with him, and he had an injury guarantee in his contract, and they didn't want to play the injury guarantee, and they didn't want to play him no more. So they basically told him, we're not going to play you. So they made him third string, put him on scout team, and then he was just like, man, can y'all just let me go? And then remember, he went and he was looking at teams, and then he ended up going to Minnesota, and he was behind Darnold. And then now he's in Indianapolis Colts, and he actually got a shot. Anthony Richardson, hopefully he's healthy, because he had a messed up back, and he was talking about how last season he couldn't walk around the house. So, I mean, Daniel Jones might get a shot to play if Anthony Richardson health is not there. Yeah, remember when DeVito was playing, remember they started using his name on like some type of food in New York or something like that at different bars and stuff. And I was like, man, I know people clown the Browns because we need a quarterback, but look at the Giants since Eli been gone. They've been just as bad as the Browns with trying to pick a quarterback. Just as bad. I mean, look at the Saints. Look at the Saints since Drew Brees left. I mean, they had Jameis. They just kind of had a random guys in there. So teams that struggle with picking quarterbacks, they just got to luck into a quarterback. Because otherwise, you just done. You are done. But, man, it's almost been 3 hours. I appreciate y'all. All y'all comments, all y'all input. I'm going to be calling it here, but I definitely appreciate everybody was here. Record numbers, record amount of people tuning in. No problem, Hunter. Hey, Hunter, your questions were so timely. You were asking questions that was leading right into things that I wanted to say. So I definitely appreciate that, man. I appreciate you. Also, I appreciate you for the follow. Shout out to Free Runner. Shout out to Monty. Shout out to everybody for being here. I go live Saturday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will put up this full replay. I'll get it on my YouTube channel. All of my channels on all platforms are Off the Record D. If anybody wants to go back, I'll put the full replay on my YouTube channel, and it'll be up. And then on my TikTok, I'll post clips all throughout the week until we get to do this thing again. So I appreciate y'all. Just a heads up, anytime I name it Dog Pound Takeover, that means the entire show is going to be dedicated to Cleveland Browns related topics. We do have, we got the game. I gotta check out the Knicks and the Pacers to see how that game is going. I'll probably go live sometime during this week. I'll be talking NBA. My NBA picks are looking good depending on what the Pacers do tonight. I picked the Pacers and OKC to make it to the finals. So we'll see how that goes. But shout out to y'all. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.